What have you learned being back in the game now for like the last 6 months?
Here's what I think about. If you want to make a lot of money online, to build a personal brand takes 50 million. I've told people that for a long time. If you want to be recognized walking down the street, because there's 5 million podcasts now and 127 million people who call themselves social media influencer.
If I try to do the same thing in 2025 on TikTok and YouTube, the reward is so much less.
Yeah, especially on TikTok. TikTok's kind of saturated down, you know. For sure, there's not one platform that exists now that our grandkids will use. There will be new platforms coming out that are going to be AI based, that are going to make our current social media platforms look like dinosaurs. Whoever comes up with one of those is going to have a chance to be a trillionaire.
What's up, Well Builders? Today, I've got Tai Lopez back on the show. What's up, man? Good to see you again.
Good to see you. In your territory now, Vegas.
Yeah, last time we were over at your brand new mansion out in Beverly Hills. And we were talking about how you just got back into kind of the guru game, I should say. You got into social media, back hard at it. How's it been going?
Good. Yeah, I always, I've learned in business, I think in 18-month cycles. So Peter Drucker said 12 months is an unrealistic time frame. So I took 18 months to just slowly ramp back up, exponentially focused on posting. I took 2 years off. I was posting like once a month, sometimes I go a whole month without posting. But now I got rebuilt. I had hundreds of people, and kind of just during COVID, I just was like, I'm going to my farm. I'm going to Puerto Rico. Just relax. It was a good time. I've been going hard for more than a decade, so it's like a sabbatical for a professor.
Influencer sabbatical.
I took my influencer sabbatical. Most people haven't been doing it long enough to need a sabbatical, but I was like, I've been doing. I think I started my personal brand really in 2007 when I got on Twitter. So, I needed a break, but so I ramped it back up, and now I'm done with that 18-month cycle. Now it's kind of a full-blown cycle.
Yeah. What have you learned being back in the game now for like the last 6 months?
Well, I tell people, look, 900,000 people get high-speed internet for the first time every day.
Whoa.
So at least 10% of them want to be online entrepreneurs. So you have almost 100,000 people a day globally that are hungry. So everyone I talk to, people go, oh, my Facebook ads aren't working anymore. My conversion rate's down. My return on ad spend's down. And I'm like, that's classic economics. Whenever there's excess reward any one place, new people get into the game. I'm a college dropout, but I remember studying that in my one quarter in university, which was that's kind of classic economics. Money is chased. So if there's excess profits here, if you're going, like when I first started online, I remember when I built my first ad campaign, I'd actually lived in Vegas and I moved back to Hollywood. And somebody's like, there's a new thing, Facebook ads. And I had used Google ads in the first 2 months it existed. So I learned when there's a new platform, get on it. So I got on Facebook kind of in the beta, says maybe 08 or 09. And I built an ad. There was no targeting then. There was no videos. It was an image ad with a link. And I went on a date. I was on a date with a girl. I can't remember who she is. I want to thank her. Like, you must be good luck. Because I went to sushi dinner, walked back. It was on Hollywood and Vine. And I go upstairs. It had spent $3,000 and I made 21 grand back in 3 hours. I just made 18,000, and I was like,
just courses or something, right?
Yeah, it was like consulting stuff. So I think that now everybody sees that. Humans are so fucking slow that you almost have 15 years before it becomes mainstream. So I built my first funnel in 2001. ClickFunnels really started in 2015. It's like 15 years for people. I built my own funnel software starting in 2007. I use my own software. I've used ClickFunnels for one of my companies, MentorBox, for a while. But my point is, like, AI is about, let's say ChatGPT started in 2016. So you got till 2031 till everybody will catch that train.
Yeah.
But once the train is caught, you better be good. So right now, I was on the phone with a guy who's doing 25 million ARR. It's like a subscription package. And he's like, my cost of ads and clicks are going up. And I said, how good's your marketing team, 1 to 10? He's like, 6. I said, you'll never win now unless your team's an 8, 9, or a 10.
Yeah.
So now you got to have good people. You got to be smarter. cost of capital. You're going to have to spend more to build a personal brand. Takes 50 million. I've told people that for a long time. If you want to be recognized walking down the street, you have to spend 50 million. I saw Hormozy did a video, another Vegas guy, a couple months ago, and I saw him say, I've spent 50 million on my brand. And so by the end of this year, I bet you it'll cost 100 million, because there's 5 million podcasts now and 127 million people who call themselves social media influencer.
Well, you know, I was talking to one of my guys out there just now before you came, and he's young, he's 25, and he was like, dude, how do you prioritize your time?
Yeah.
You know, because you're running businesses, got kids, a wife, and playing golf, we're doing a podcast now.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, the important thing is knowing what is the highest priority at that time? Because most people prioritize everything. Everything's of equal importance.
Right.
And it's like, no, they're not. Like, you have to go all in on certain campaigns that are crushing certain things. But I was telling him the story about how in 2020, I went all in on TikTok and YouTube.
Yeah.
Because I was like, dude, this is it. Like, this TikTok thing is really important.
Yeah.
And YouTube, I think, is going to get massive.
Yeah.
And they were both already big. But it was like, I think if I put in all the time and effort right now, it'll pay off.
Right.
And sure enough, it did. And I told him, I go, dude, if I try to do the same thing in 2025 on TikTok and YouTube, the reward is so much less.
Yeah. Especially on TikTok. TikTok's kind of saturated down, Yeah. I see it coming back a little bit. So it's interesting. I think during that whole US government shutting down TikTok, they did something with the algorithm. So like September, October, November, December of last year, I didn't see TikTok working as well. And now it's really starting to pop up. So that's good. I think a lot of people left it because they were thinking the app would stop working. And now that they realized Trump brought it back, or at least put a reprieve, they're back. So, but for sure, there's not one platform that exists now that our grandkids will use. No, it's going to be, in fact, your grandkids, I've predicted 1% chance your grandkids know what Apple is. They're not going to know what Facebook is. They're not going to know YouTube. They're not going to know TikTok. They're not going to know Instagram. There will be new platforms coming out that are going to be AI based, that are going to make our current social media platforms look like dinosaurs. You watch.
Yeah.
That'll be in the next 5 years. And by the way, if you're watching or listening, whoever comes up with one of those is going to have a chance to be a trillionaire. There's no trillionaires before because of inflation. Now with inflation, it's not. Elon popped up to $500 billion net worth. So there's big reward. And so
wouldn't you think that one of these guys would be the one to create it with all their resources, or you think it's coming from out of
new?
Blue?
It's always new blood. Look, almost everybody, this is a superpower to not have this problem. Almost everybody gets cocky when they're winning. Apple is cocky. They haven't fixed iMessage is the same shitty features from 10 years ago. They haven't added anything. WhatsApp, on the other hand, has innovated. There's new ways to do groups. You can make a broadcast list.
Yeah.
You can disappearing message. Apple is too cocky.
Yeah, in our WhatsApp, I was looking, you were like, I'm 15 minutes out. It showed me where you were.
Yeah, I sent you my live location.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, that's cool. I've never seen that.
iMessage has a place where you can click to see a location, but you need a PhD in the interface. You have to do 17 clicks to get to it. So I'm just saying, there's an example. Almost everybody who gets big gets cocky. Apple's an example. And so my prediction is that TikTok will not come up with the new innovation. In fact, there's only 5 people under age 30 who are self-made billionaires alive now. One of them is Evan Spiegel, the founder of Snapchat. So it wasn't YouTube that came up. Like people forget, Snap Stories invented stories. Instagram didn't have stories. Zuckerberg is great. Zuckerberg follows the Pablo Picasso rule. Good artists copy, great artists steal. Zuckerberg just stole Snapchat stories. I remember being a big deal because I was one of the first people to get 1 million people on Snap. And stories were huge then. I once posted on my Snap. My first Snap had 18 million views on it. I would get 18, 13. I probably averaged, let's say 500,000 to 1 million. But then Zuckerberg goes, I'm launching this. And Zuckerberg's a funny guy. You know what he named it? He's like, we're going to copy Snapchat stories. What's a creative, innovative name so it doesn't seem like we're copying them? Let's call it Instagram stories. I didn't even change the name. It's like stealing, making your car company and be like, what should we call this electric car company? Let's call it Tesla. Okay. So he just ripped it. And Zuckerberg's an interesting one because he's kind of more humble than people think. So maybe Zuckerberg will come up with this AI platform. But I think, he's made a lot of money. He's DJ. Anytime a dude either does DJ, has a farm, or does jujitsu, he's kind of checked out.
He's made it.
And Zuckerberg has a farm where he's feeding his cows beer battered something.
It's like does Wagyu.
Yeah. And he's doing jujitsu, which is great. I've done jujitsu for more than 10 years, but so I don't know if it's Zuckerberg. It's definitely not Apple. Apple has no innovation power except around hardware. Is it TikTok? I doubt it. Because America is regulatory is going to not let another TikTok, no way another Chinese company will have the power, at least when the Republicans are in office. So it's probably some kid who's like walking the Vegas Strip right now.
You think Elon just figures it out?
I don't think it'll be Elon. People don't realize Elon's mostly interested in space. Tesla's not his prime passion. That's why he's switching Tesla to robots. Robots, his big thing, if you take him at face value, is saving civilization. He has a hero complex, for good or bad. By the way, there's a great book on this called The Denial of Death. It's a Pulitzer Prize winning book from the 1970s. If you want to read a powerful book, I tell people, 50% chance you'll get halfway through this book and shut it and be like, I won't read this. But basically, it's about people who have hero messiah complexes and how all of us want to be great. And basically, is that a good thing? Or is it our own narcissism and ego? But Elon has said, I think civilization has a chance of disappearing. I'm going to keep consciousness alive. So Tesla is not that interesting to him unless it becomes robots. The robots eventually will be in the spaceships helping us on Mars. So he's a SpaceX guy. That's his passion. And so I don't know that he has crazy passion to
innovate social media.
Yeah. Look, he bought Twitter. I told everybody this is going to be a good buy. In fact, I told him this. I had a talk with him. I used to see him a lot at events. We're not friends or anything, but I would see him all the time. He likes celebrity HBO specials. I posted a video on my Insta a couple months ago, and we were talking. The last time I really had a long conversation, he's like, do you think, he knew I was big on social media, and he's like, do you think that to grow my businesses like Tesla, I should use social media? And I said, absolutely. And he said, why? And I talked to him for like 15 minutes. I stated the case. At the end, I go, what do you think? He goes, I think you're totally wrong. If you build a good product, the people will come to you and it'll spread virally from your customers. I'm like, I think you're wrong. Well, that was 2017. Fast forward. If you ever look at an Elon Musk net worth chart, it's flat. He became a billionaire, let's say 10 years ago, approximately. Flat, 1 billion, 2 billion. I mean, sub 10 billion. You see when he acquired Twitter. And Twitter's not a social media platform. Twitter is a modified news platform. Mm-hmm. It's an interactive news platform. It's not social media. People don't date off of it. Instagram has a huge component of people DMing each other.
Yeah.
You don't dance on it for videos. It's basically news.
Yeah.
And he dropped 44 billion. And the second he did that and started going all in, he's posted 60,000 times on Twitter.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 60,000 if you look in the past decade. So he was slowly using it. And now I see him 10 times a day he tweaked the algorithm probably so he basically bought himself the world's largest microphone. He can change who becomes president. So that in his mind ensures that we go to space. He thinks Donald Trump probably will listen to him more, so on and so forth. So to me, Elon's easier to understand. He's just a space guy.
Yeah.
So he's not trying to build a TikTok. He actually said, I don't think I'll buy TikTok. It's like, I'd have to look at it and see.
Well, he's already accomplished his mission of having influence, right?
Yes.
Through X. So he doesn't really need, it's kind of like diminishing returns for him at that point. Other than just like, is it a good business decision? Will it make money? Whatever, right? But I mean, kind of back to what just prompted all this, right? Going into, okay, you're back and it's harder than ever now, right? You got to be level 10 marketing to stand out. To Elon's point, you got to have level 10 product to have sustainability and to grow exponentially and virally. Because the problem with social media too is if your product sucks, it kills it quicker.
Yeah.
So
depends how big it is. If it's big enough, it doesn't kill it.
Yeah.
McDonald's wasn't killed by social media. Not yet. Now with RFK, it might make it illegal to eat at McDonald's.
Death knell soon.
Yeah.
But, I guess for you now, to me, last time we talked, it was like, you're kind of running back the same playbook. You're like, you got the mansion, you're doing masterminds, coaching, these different things. Have you had to innovate it at all, or it's just doing it what you did, 10 years ago, just better?
I would say better. Look, if it ain't broke, don't try to fix it.
Yeah.
So I've spent 50 million on split tests. If I find something that works, in fact, I tell my team, make sure you turn on everything we've ever figured out works. Make sure it's running. Because I'll tell you this.
You'll run the old ads?
Anything that used to work, we'll test it at least. Because the disease of entrepreneurs and the disease of humans is find what works and never do it again.
Dude, do something new now.
Oh, dude, I was at this event. I've got a private partner program. It's $1 million program. And 3 of the people came with me on this trip to Vegas. And I'm like, so he's a real estate guy, actually. He did a conference, did a low ticket upsell, or what I call mid ticket, 1 to 10,000, right? Makes no money. But at the very end, he met one guy walking out of his seminar. He said, I have a high ticket, $150,000 coaching program. And the guy took it. Okay. So he made no money from this original pitch, and he made all this money. He just did a seminar yesterday and did a low ticket $2,000. And I wrote him, I said, what's your revenue per attendee? $300. I'm like, dude, I'm shooting for 10,000 an attendee.
Yeah.
And but I'm not surprised because entrepreneurs are high in dopamine. Yeah. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're an innovator, you always sometimes innovate past what worked. It's kind of like a guy that wants to be married. And he's like, I'm going to go on a whole bunch of dates and pick the best one. But some guys never stop. They just keep, because they like the dopamine rush of newness. In fact, there's a book called The Hypomanic Edge. America is full of hypomanics. Those are people, bipolar is like you're depressed, then you're up. America's not super bipolar. America is manic up. So you see America as a place of optimism and a place of entrepreneurship. We got the most 700 billionaires, the most in the world live in one place. So anyway, for me, I got to resist the temptation to try to do everything from scratch. In fact, I always say the only benefit of getting older is getting smarter and wiser. So if you're getting older every day, then you're repeating your mistakes. Or as Jesus Christ said, as a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool returns to his folly. And so really your job as a human is to be like, am I returning to something stupid? You see people who like break up with somebody because they're psycho. And then a year later, like, you're back together? I'm like, bro, you're like a dog returning to its vomit. Yeah. So for me, all the stuff that worked 10 years ago, it still works now. It was psychology. Now, things like nice houses, I've had nice houses before I was a social media influencer. When I moved to LA and Hollywood in 2007, I had like a little mini mansion. I never put it on camera for 8 years. So it's not a lot of people, there's a lot of confusion about me. Oh, Ty gets Lambos to show off. I had my first Italian car in 2006. I didn't post a picture for 5 years. I've been looking back. I found one picture like 2009 or 10. So a lot of the stuff that I'm doing now is just filming what I've been doing. But I still have the farm. That's new. People love that. I live in Scandinavia part-time too. So I post that. So my story's not exactly the same. Some of the characters in my life, like my best friend Zach, sadly died. People thought of him as like my social media story. He was one of the characters in it. Yeah. So you're always evolving, but don't turn off stuff that works.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, I was telling that to a couple of guys because they're like, man, I mean, it's not good to be all in on one thing. And I'm like, bro, I don't know. I've made a lot of money just always going all in.
Right.
And then, you know, when it stops working, okay, find the next thing.
Yes, exactly.
Instead of, okay, this is working great, but now let's try and diversify a little bit.
Yeah.
And then they never just go all in.
Yeah.
they think somehow they've reached the saturation point when it's not even close.
Yes. In general, the one good thing about the modern world with 8.5 billion people is no matter what you know, you can make $10 to $100 million from it. You could know underwater basket weaving. There's probably a $10 million market. So like you said, people think it's saturated. I started the SMMA movement. I actually own the trademark SMMA. People are like, oh, does marketing agencies doesn't work anymore, I heard. I said, I launched that in 2016. You think 9 years later, there's more business owners now than ever that have awareness they should be doing social media marketing. So there's more of a need for agencies now. It's not saturated. It's not even remotely saturated, but people think it is because they want a new, then what's the next new thing? TikTok shops or drop shipping. It's like, I don't like anything that saturates, and most things don't.
Yeah. You know, with agency, it's interesting. The only problem I've ever seen with agency, well, I'll say there's two problems I have with the agency model, and they both can be solved, but the way most people do it. Number one is most agencies don't niche down.
Right.
Like in my mind, it's like, dude, if you're going to be an agency, be an agency only for plumbers or for only this, because you thinking of a VSL and a new thing for, Ryan's a real estate guy. Okay, well, this guy now is an air conditioning guy. And it's like, dude, just pick one niche, dominate it, rinse and repeat across everybody. Yeah. That's like a problem I see. A second problem I see is if you're in the info space, which a lot of these agencies are, like, I think you could have great retention with normal brick and mortar people to like run an agency for. But if you're trying to be an agency for a guy like me or somebody who's doing, you know, I don't know, a couple $100,000 a year, trying to scale an education business or whatever, it's like, on one hand, if you get a bad client who's never spent money before or everything else, they don't understand cold traffic. They don't understand any of this, right? They end up just churning out pretty quick. Yes. And then people who are actually really good, you get penalized for because those people just take it in-house. Right. So you end up losing both people. Yes. And so I'm like, dude, if you're trying to be like a small agency for info, good luck, dude. Yeah. Well, this is what I tell people. Here's my advice if you need money. If you're homeless, best thing you can do is learn to sell on the phone or learn door-to-door sales. Sales can take you from 0 to 100,000 more predictably, quicker, more reliably than anything I know. I agree with that. 0 to 100,000. Yep. If you're making 100,000 and you want to get to 1 million, you build a service-based business. And marketing agency is a great one. It can take you from 100K to 1 million a year. If you want to go from 1 million to 10 million, you have to build a product that's repeatable. That could be built in a factory or built by AI, and selling more of it is easy. Yeah. You don't have to rebuild. If you want to go from 10 to $100 million, you have to get really good at, you have to what I call gulp a lot. That means you have to, a lot of entrepreneurs take teeny sips. I spent $300 on Facebook. Like when you go from 10 to 100 million, you're going, okay, this campaign's working at $300 a day. Get it up to $60,000 a day. Spend. See, and I've never done that. Yeah, that's how you get from 10 to 100. If you want to get from 100 million a year to billion, you have to learn how to buy companies. That's the way of the billionaire. So I've gone through all those stages, and I think the marketing agency is great for that step too, but it's hard to make more than $1 million a year. That's what I'm getting at too. Yeah. 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 You'll eventually churn out, or you have too small of people, but you can get to 80,000 a month where you can have, 40 clients paying you $2,000 a month. Like I've had Neil Patel on a bunch, and he does enterprise marketing. Yes. And it's like, they manage billions of ad spend. And it's like, he's done really well. Yeah. Gary Vee has a big agency like that. One. There's always exceptions, but I think my framework. Well, that's what I'm saying. You're either going enterprise, but the normal small business agency. Yes. It's basically capped, is what you're saying. 100 to 1 million. But you know what? People listening, there's a lot of people out there. That's great. I think how much money you want to make is very genetic. A lot of scientists are finding that humans now have these clusters of genes, whether you're likely to be alcoholic, whether you're likely to have high anxiety, whether you are highly ambitious. You get these clusters of genes. And I think everybody has to maximize what they have. So for some people, they're not happy unless they make $500 million in their life. But other people are happy to make 500,000. So I think you have to know yourself. The oldest self-help advice ever is the Oracle of Delphi in Greece. It said, know thyself.
So I think there are a group of people that are very happy making $1 million a year gross, netting 400,000 in their pocket. I mean, if you buy a farm in America, you move out in the countryside, get a little piece of land, 400 grand a year, you could raise your family, have a great life, work 4 hours a day. It's a good life. Humans are more stressed than ever because we're overly busy. And most people's genes are, they're not gonna be able to handle that much busyness. So if you wanna make 100 million, you're gonna be busy. And so I have a private client program where people pay me. I mentor them. I started in 2013, and there was a guy who he started with me a year ago. He was doing 10 million a year, Canadian guy, 10 million US. And he's like, I want to grow the way of the billionaire, buy companies. So I helped him negotiate and buy a company. He's doing 50 million now. He went from 10 to 50 with acquisitions. He called me after the first month after, and he's like, I don't know if I can handle this. He's like, I don't have time to sleep. Now I got to manage more people, And I was like, I think we maxed out your genes.
Yeah.
50 million is you. Dude, don't try to ever make 60. We're there. So you're going to grow into it and just stay there.
Yeah.
But some people are freaked out at, the thought of making 500 grand a year.
Well, I played pro baseball for a long time, and, I just grew up with athletes where, your genetic potential is very evident.
Yes.
It's like, dude, I'm bigger, faster, strong. Well, I'm not, but a lot of people, bigger, faster, stronger. There ain't nothing you can do about it.
Yes.
They are just going to be who they are. It is what it is. And then, a guy like me who is 5'10", which is average.
Yeah.
Not bigger, not faster, not stronger, pretty average in most things.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to have a cap to how great I can be physically. And if I'm going to win, I'm going to have to win mentally and consistently and, all these other things. And I think about it with business too, to your point. I've seen it so many times with guys who, number one, who just are undisciplined, right? There's so many guys that can go run really fast for a period of time and then they crash and burn.
Yeah.
Like, there's just I don't even know if you'd call it a flow state or what, but they just cannot find a consistent marathon type mentality. Then you see guys, like you said, whatever your genetic potential is for managing stress, you might only be able to handle $1 million business. You might only be able to handle a 10 million. I don't know, right? Everybody's different.
Yes.
I've also seen, just with managing employees, you always get people who just go back to being a solopreneur.
Yes.
They're like, dude, managing people ain't for me.
Like a farmer told me, Tai, the more I learn about people, the more I like my Pekingese dog. He said, I became a farmer so I don't have to work with any human. Just I got my horses and cows, but yeah. That's what I said. Know thyself.
Mm-hmm. What are you spending these days on ads? Because you talked about going from 300 a day to 60,000 a day. And what have you spent in your peak?
Oh man, millions a week.
Millions a week.
Yeah, I've had big stuff. But but you got to remember, I've done over 700 million in 1 year. So it's a ratio. So if you want to do 700 million, if you say that your cost of acquiring a new customer is 30%, you're gonna have to spend 210 million in a year.
But that was when you guys did the fund and everything for all those big companies, right?
Yeah, different companies.
Yeah. What about for your personal brand though?
Oh, personal brand. I've spent 7 figures. Like I said, I haven't really gone with the personal brand into the 8, spending 10 million a month. I think there's better ways.
Multiple 7 figures a month.
Yeah. I think there's better ways to do it. So I would not want to wire Mark Zuckerberg $10 million for Facebook ads. 3 million in a month. The other 7 you could use in newer strategies that work now. So I'd want to use, for example, to build a big sales floor of really good, and to use money to incentivize, hire, recruit, referral fees. I would use that money to build a huge sub-account network of fan accounts so that you're posting. Like, my goal for my personal brand is, let's say, 10,000 posts a day on social media using sub-accounts. That viral army, I call it. I have a viral army. So I would not want to use all of it. I divide business into 14 divisions. Revenue comes from 3 divisions besides having your product. But branding, which I consider organic social media.
Yep.
Marketing, which I consider paid ads.
Okay.
And sales, which is 1-to-1. So for me, if you want to spend 10 million on revenue, like I have a chief revenue officer that sits across those 3 divisions. So I have one person here, chief revenue. I would, if I say here's a $10 million budget, I wouldn't want them to spend it all on division 6 marketing. I'd be like, put $1 million into this one over here. Put $1 million more into, could build a big viral army. You're gonna have to spend a lot of money. You could spend $1 million a month on that.
So you think that's, well, I guess it's not more valuable. It's just part of the budget. So
I don't like to have my revenue coming from one place. In an ideal world, 33% of my daily revenue, 33% of the money in my pocket came from social media branding, organic.
Okay.
Not buying ads. 33% comes from paid ads, and 33% comes from a phone team or in-person team following up on people who bought from branding or marketing. I would not want, I know people, I meet people that all their revenue comes from a phone sales team.
Yeah.
That's dangerous. People get hit with FTC. You get a regulatory body come in and be like, your phone sales team's too aggressive. And they shut it all off. Your lawyers will be like, shut that whole thing off.
Yeah.
So you lose 100% of your revenue.
So what kind of products are you selling right now that don't require a sales team?
So my focus is on super high-end entrepreneurs. So I've done coaching for beginners. That's how I started. I've done coaching for kind of mid-level. Now my ideal customer is doing 50 million in revenue.
Okay.
That's my ideal person I'm working for. So for me, it's very different now, the strategy. If I was going after the mainstream, I would do a totally different set of products. So now a lot of the products I'm doing, like I have a company called marketers.io. We put fractional CMOs, chief marketing officers, and we'll come in and help them high-level consulting. That's like $300,000 to $1 million for one client. So for that, I spend differently. If you know you might make $1 million off a client, you spend totally different than if you're selling a $50 ebook. So you got to know your market. When I was in low ticket marketing, you want to build very broad products.
But something like that's obviously going to be sales. You're going to have to go one-to-one.
That's right. You're going to have sales. But I'm a big fan of persuasion. I want somebody pre-sold. So I use VSLs. Like before people talk to the sales team, some of them watch a 45-minute video. So ideally your phone guys are taking orders and they're 80% sold. But yeah, bigger, larger, you're not gonna be able to put up a credit card funnel and have a $350,000 product checkout.
Yeah.
That will take. Yeah, my sales guys, I'm like, if it's $1 million deal, if you don't fly to them, I will take your lead and give it to somebody else. So one of my guys was just doing $1 million deals. He just drove. He lives in North Carolina. He just drove to Atlanta to meet a client.
And then, but that brings back my point. Like what? So then, what are you selling that doesn't require a sales team? If like,
I have
high net worth.
I always keep one. I don't like to only go after. I like to remember where I came from. So I have a beginner product that's an AI automation agency product.
Okay.
So that one is just like $300 with upsells. So it's like up to $1,000. That's all checkout. No phone sales team needed. We still call the leads.
And what's that funnel, I guess, look like? Is it just they watch a webinar and they buy it, or how does it work?
Here's what I think about. If you want to make a lot of money online, we can keep it simple. From when I started in 2001 to 2025, 26 is the same formula. Number one, you need a relatively long video ad, okay? Videos connect with humans better than banner ads or something back in 2002. A video, you can convey tone of voice, you can show things. So you want a video ad that's longer than you think, 3 to 4 minutes, okay? So they watch that. They click. In general, the best copywriting for human psychology now is 45 minutes. Now I will tell you, if you're boring, you might only be able to do a 4-minute VSL.
Yeah.
Okay, but if you're skilled at marketing and copywriting, anything under 45 minutes, usually I can beat it with a challenging VSL. So if I go into somebody, they got the best VSL, my landing page, my funnel works, I have a 20-minute video, I'm like, I guarantee you, we'll put $1 million in escrow. We carefully write a marketing, I have my own structure I created that's 34 points, 34 sections in it. You can't cover 34 sections in under 45 minutes.
No.
So most people get too afraid that people are going to drop off. So they think you want shorter, but you actually want people to drop off.
Yeah, it gives you the qualified people.
Yeah, because if you get 20% of people watch to the end of the 45 minutes, they're 80% sold. Mm-hmm. So if it's a $100,000 product, they book a calendar call, or if you're selling, I think you can sell up to $25,000 on a credit card checkout if you're well known. If you're not well known, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 max. Yeah. People get freaked out. Tony Robbins can probably sell a $25,000 with no phone sales team. If he was selling something and I wanted it, I wouldn't be like, oh, can I trust Tony Robbins, right? So I'd press that button. But for most people, if you're not well known, you can sell 1,000 to 2,000, 3,000 on a checkout page. After that, you need a phone sales team. If you're super well known, you can go to 10,000 on a checkout,
So you're basically saying with front end, for the lower ticket stuff, you're just doing like a 45-minute VSL. Yeah. Selling, a beginner level thing.
Yeah, but so here's the thing. It's kind of like going to a basketball game. You like sports. People will be like, oh, a VSL is like a basketball game. People are like, oh yeah, I have a landing page. I'm like, that means nothing to me. That's like saying my friend knows how to play basketball. I don't know what that means. Do you mean your friend knows how to dribble with two hands and throw the ball? Or do you mean your friend's LeBron James? They're not similar.
Yeah.
So when people say, oh, I have a video on my website, that means nothing to me.
Yeah.
The difference between, I have a friend who I honestly think he's the best marketer in the world. We've been friends since 2007. Back then he was making like $6 million a month. He's profit. He's a big money guy, faceless guy. He's the best copywriter. I mean, I'm a pretty good copywriter, but he is twice as good as me. He's the only guy I've ever met we used to go on copywriting sessions. I'm like, this dude, it was like a genetic thing. You could not beat this guy. So now he makes $1 million a day after tax. He moved to Puerto Rico. He's stacking like $350 million a year. It's crazy. When he writes a VSL, when he writes a landing page, I remember he had one, he used to be in the dating space. This is before like business info. And I used to tell my copywriters, go watch this thing and try to outline what he does. Anybody I sent there, okay, married men, old men, they all bought his product. They were like, I have to buy it with their own money. So on my experiment team, he had 100% conversion rate. It would crack me up. I wouldn't say buy it. I would just say, go watch the free video.
He just ended up buying it.
Is never a time. So he really, I call it irresistible offers, IOs, and I think I got these 4 terms in my company. So we have IOs, which irresistible offer, I like to call it insane outlier. An insane outlier is 4 times better. So let's say you have a website and every 100 people that go there, 1 buys from you. If I change your marketing to an insane outlier, 4 people buy instead of 1. Then I go up there, I have hyper outliers. That's 8 times better. So if you normally had 1 person per 100 people on your website, we sometimes can build hyper outlier. 8 people buy. But what I'm looking for, I call them quantum outliers. That's 16 times the normal conversion rate. And when you're really good, you can pull that off once a year. You can find a funnel. That party campaign, actually, that, people see come to the mansion parties. Yeah. Dude, I don't know if it's quite a quantum outlier, but it is for sure a hyper 8X on anything I've run in the last year. I spent like $4 million in the last 6 months just testing a lot of experimental stuff. That thing, and it doesn't change with scale, which is crazy.
Yeah.
There's almost nothing you do on Facebook ads that when you spend more, your ROAS doesn't go down. I use the KPI I use is cost per qualified lead. So a millionaire lead, it never changes. It's like, and it's lower. The average person to get a qualified person is $500 to $1,000. We can get them at scale for $50. It's crazy. It's 8 times better. It's almost a quantum outlier. So
your thing is just run that till it stops.
Yeah. Yeah. But the definition of a quantum outlier, they don't really stop. If you hit on such good psychology, think about the election. You have Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris in this last one. I look at it not from political terms. I look at it as a psychology guy. Really, I'm not a marketer. I'm interested in reading people, humans. And Trump is for sure a hyper outlier compared to Kamala at marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. Forget who's the better president for a second. For example, Trump uses 4th grade language, vocabulary. He says, make America great again. That's good marketing. The average person, if you go past 4th or 5th grade vocabulary, gets a little confused. Okay. Now, Kamala has this very complicated saying she was going around everywhere saying. It was like, what is it? Unburdened by what was or something. Unburdened is unburdened. It's a 3 or 4 syllable word.
Yeah.
Make America, which we all know, great again. 1 or 2 syllable words, essentially.
Yeah.
And so the world is run by marketers. Yeah. Literally right now. You could have taken all your money and bet on Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. Is no comparison. Plus, Trump also understood that I call it the 39 triggers. When I look at marketing, there's 39 cognitive biases that trigger us to do things, okay? I brought up one of them. Easy to understand is actually a cognitive trigger. It's called the availability bias. Is it easily available to our brain? I'm going to make America great again. Just imagine you didn't know 2 people. They walk in. One guy goes, I'm going to make Vegas great again.
Yeah.
The other person says, unburdened by what has been and burdened by, you'd be like, what the I don't even know what this person's saying. So the unconscious mind moves towards things that are easily available. We have something called association bias. We think somebody's good if they're physically standing next to somebody else. That's why guys like to have pretty girlfriends. Trophy wives. Men go to a dinner, they walk in with a pretty woman. By association, all the other men are like, well, this must be a guy who's, an alpha man. He can attract a woman like that. Well, Donald Trump surrounded himself with Joe Rogan, Elon Musk. That brought 20 million voters to him.
Yeah.
Kamala, her association, she had Megan Thee Stallion or something like this dancing. Yeah. No offense to Megan Thee Stallion, but that's not the richest man in the world.
Yeah.
Elon Musk. And Joe Rogan, the most listened to podcast voice. That's better if you're running for presidency. So it's a landslide. It's a landslide. So all you have to do, everywhere you look, whether it's dating, politics, or money, it's just these 39 triggers. It's like, by the way, that's a course. I have 39 triggers. I don't sell it for much. I make it kind of cheap for people. But 39 triggers is a super powerful way of understanding how to sell anything. Market anything.
So right now, I mean, obviously, you're talking about a lot of different marketing strategies. You guys have spent, millions and months for your own personal brand, and now you found something that works. Mm-hmm. You do have somewhat of a capacity issue because it's at the house.
For sure.
As a party. So that's probably why you can't scale it.
But we branch people off.
Okay, got it.
And also, by the way, if you're doing a physical event, you can never have too much capacity. You just raise the price.
Yeah. Exactly.
So it's like if there 150 people, I have a ballroom in my house. It'll hold the person, a billionaire built that house in Beverly Hills. And this is how rich Beverly Hills is. Their daughter was getting married. So they built a house with a ballroom just for her marriage.
Yeah.
They're like, tack on a $20 million addition with a dome. So anyway, I can hold 150 people. If it's as it sells out more, you just raise the price. It eventually can be 100,000 to come.
It's like the airlines. That's what they do.
Yeah, exactly. Demand pricing. So theoretically, I could have 150 people there.
Everyone
I can actually fill it up with I have $1 million partner program. So I could say only people who come in my ballroom are people in my $1 million. So that's 150 million a year I could make from a 150 person ballroom. So I'm not worried about the capacity because I can raise the prices. Actually, it's you just got to find outliers. There's weird ads. Almost always the ads that I thought would lose, and the ones that lose win. Even though if you ask my friends, my employees like Tai, I asked ChatGPT who's the best internet marketer in the world, and it says Tai Lopez #1. I don't know if I'm the best. I actually think this guy, I'm in the top 10, let's say. I've been doing it longer. I still get it wrong. I can't predict really. I can predict losers very well. And I can predict ones that will be an insane outlier, 4 times better. But what goes to 8 or 16 times better, it's the most random thing. It's almost impossible. We humans have too much narcissism to really be able to tap in to the masses.
Yeah.
No matter how good, like Steve Jobs was like very intuitive, and even Steve Jobs had nut job ideas he was totally wrong about.
Yeah.
But,
what do you think about, you mentioned this before, that that guy who you do think is the best.
Yeah.
He was an insane copywriter.
Yes.
And now you're seeing AI take over a lot of copywriting. Yes. Where do you see that going?
Yeah. So AI will beat a copywriter who's an 8 out of 10 or below. But a 9 or a 10 copywriter will still have a job. It's the same with lawyers. Lawyers are going to disappear with AI. Unless you're a 9 or a 10 out of 10 level lawyer, you'll be fine. Accountants are going to disappear. Bookkeeping, your QuickBooks is going to all be done by AI. But if you're the best accountant in the world that can help people find tax loopholes, then so what's really happening is all things that aren't elite are going to get replaced with AI.
And that's the same thing too, as what you're saying with just even these digital marketers and gurus. Yes. It's like, you better be elite.
That's right.
As a marketer or a product or anything.
Yes. You know what? That's not new. For the last 10,000 years, humans who didn't innovate, who weren't smart, went extinct. They got the Y chromosome studies, which show this could only happen after the 1970s, that of all the humans on Earth come from only 40% of men in our ancestral past. 60% of men went extinct. Their bloodlines are gone. Now with women, it's different. Like 95% of women procreate, but nature's brutal, especially to men. It's looking to weed out quickly. And the same thing happens in business. Business is brutal. You look at how many people try to build a social media network.
Yeah.
And there's 6 left. 6 for 8 billion people. There's been 6,000 that started.
Yeah.
Easy. I mean, Friendster was the first platform. The guy became an alcoholic because he built the biggest social media network and he sold it and he made like 20 million bucks. Look at Victoria's Secret. The founder of Victoria's Secret killed himself. He sold for $5 million. And it became this $1 billion thing. He jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. It's a sad story. Left his wife and little girls out, to be raised without a dad. So that's why I said business and nature are very similar. You look at the African Serengeti, where it's like the limping water buffalo is going to get taken out. There's lions in the system built. The predators are there. It's the same thing in business. So if you're average, a predator going to take you out.
Yeah, like I've thought about this a lot too, because I'm an entrepreneur. I've been, I would say, a full-time entrepreneur for, let's call it 8 years now. I was playing baseball before that. And so, I'd say 2017, I retired from baseball. So 2018 to now, full-time, that's all I do. And one thing I've realized is, not only from my own experiences, but from watching other people, is, to your point, things that I think are going to crush it don't. Things that I think are, they could do well, end up crushing it.
Yes.
And it's very hard to predict, which one's going to be the winner.
Yeah.
And then, that's why you see a lot of entrepreneurs, like they have tons of failures behind them. And, they're doing whatever they're doing now. That's the winner, essentially. And it makes me even wonder too, because I've thought about this with AI, where it's now going to like really kind of take over here in the next 5 years, where, to your point, it's like, dude, people who've been being lawyers and going to school and all this stuff for a decade. It's like, oh yeah, sorry, dude, you kind of joined at the wrong time.
Tech people,
accountants,
if you're an average
engineers.
Coder, there's going to be sad people. And I don't even know what's going to happen to humanity. My mom thinks AI is bad. I'm like, it might be bad, but probably electricity in the long run was bad for humans. Probably airplanes were bad. Families used to live close to each other. And now, because of airplanes, people live far apart.
Well, and I guess
technology is usually not good.
Well, so here's my point. You even said it too. You're like, our grandkids aren't going to know Facebook and YouTube and all this stuff. And I'm like, are the days of the companies that have been around for a century, like a Coca-Cola, McDonald's, McDonald's not even that long, but right? Like we have companies in America that have been around for 100 years.
Yeah.
We have some that have been around 50, but like, it seems like that's going to be few and far between now.
Yeah. And that is actually a very hard question that I'm on the fence. I could see the world go one of two ways. I could see the world split into 1 million medium-sized businesses. So everything, instead of going to McDonald's, your local area will have 10 hamburger places that are called.
That's kind of how it was before.
Yeah, it's called Pinedas.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not a bad name, actually.
Yep.
Okay. We got Filipino food. Like, what's the thing? What's the good Filipino food I grew up with? It starts with a P.
Like the chicken. Well, we have adobo, chicken adobo.
Yeah, adobo.
Yep.
Pineda is adobo.
We could do that.
Good. I get 1% for the name.
All right. Sounds good.
If you became $1 billion, I get 10 million. If you exit for a bill. So I could see the world go that way. But if you listen to Will Durant, who's probably the smartest or wisest man of the last 500 years, he very clearly says that as technology increases, wealth concentrates because most people don't take the risk to use the new technology soon. So if you look at the world right now, 10 men, if you add up their net worth, is more than the bottom 4.5 billion of the world. 4.5 billion people's total net worth combined together is less than 10 guys.
Yeah, my opinion is everything consolidates.
Yeah, but I think it might get you. Imagine this: 5 years from now, 2 men might have more money than the bottom 6 billion people. So the world could also go in a direction where everybody's on basic income. So they're making just enough. That's actually how the world is now. I was talking to Rome and.
Yeah, I don't think the world's that far away from what
I think it's actually already there.
I agree with that.
I walk around, like, I make money. The other day, I went to Disneyland with a whole bunch of family people, and I paid. I ended up paying for the family. That's when you make the most money in family, you have to pay. Let me tell you. Although I started, when I go out with rich dudes now, I always make them do credit card roulette. Ain't nobody cheaper than a whole bunch of rich dudes at a table. So I force credit card roulette. So we all put our cards in. Anyway, when I walk through Vegas or go to Disneyland, I'm like,
how do these people afford
it? It was $14,000 to go for one day.
Yep.
We stayed at the hotel one night before.
Yeah.
You get the VIP, you get the thing, food, $600. I'm going, how does an average family spend $14,000 for one day? People, I know the answer. They go in debt.
Yeah.
People are like, a dad will be like, I want my kids to go to Disneyland. They save up $14,000 or they go in $14,000 credit card debt every 2 years to go to Disneyland. So, I mean, I'll tell you something controversial that I haven't told anybody. Yours is the first podcast that's on my mind. Money is life now. Don't let people shame you for being interested in money. Money now is life. And it was not that way 100 years ago. When my grandma was born, 1918, they had their own garden. They had a little piece of land. She's German. They had that. They had friends, family that were self-sufficient. The world was still kind of rural. And so people made their own clothes. My grandma's mom would buy yarn and crochet their sweaters and jackets. So back then, money wasn't life. Family was life. Community was life. We live in a world that community's shattered. Very few people even live in the same state as their brothers, sisters, grandparents. And so now literally all you have, if you don't have money, I have a friend in the UK health system. They don't have much money. It's just a friend of a friend, really. They got some hernia or something like that. They're in major pain. Okay, UK, you get free health insurance. They couldn't see him for 100 days. They're like, are you going to die? No? Okay. Well, you get to sit in pain for your 100 day from now. It was like January. They set an appointment for April. So healthcare, food. If you don't have money, you're feeding your family the worst possible food. If you don't have money, you're living in a house that's next to a freeway, your kids. So I think now money is life, and it's never been that way before. And so you better learn them. If you're a man, the world is very cruel to a man who doesn't know how to make money. So men have to go all in more than ever. It wasn't that way 100 years ago. You had to go 50% all in on making money. Now a man's got to be 80% in. 80% of their mind, at least for 10 years, has to think about money.
Yeah, my thought is just watching it the last bunch of years. Because, okay, we were talking about social media before.
Yeah.
And you're like, I think, it takes 50 million to be like well known. And I think that number is going to go to 100 million, and then it will go to 200 million at some point. Right. And I've kind of always, I have been saying that, but not as extreme, because we used to do social media training, and we'll still do it, with private clients. But I'm like, guys, I actually don't think it's like a great opportunity for most people now.
No.
Like, the competition is just so fierce.
Yes.
And I'm just watching it, and I'm like, man, how many people do you actually know in the entrepreneur space?
Yes.
Like, we can all count like who our top favorite people are.
Yeah, there's like 10.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
10.
Yeah, and I'm like, how do you break through to that?
Yes.
As just somebody who's trying to make content?
Yeah.
Like, it's, and by the way, they're well capitalized.
Yes.
They're better. They're smarter. They're well known.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not a fight I'd want to take.
When I started as a business influencer, let's say 08, 09, Gary Vee was about a year before me.
Yeah.
So he's first. Me, Tim Ferriss was before us.
Yeah,
2006,
Tim Ferriss, OG,
right?
Yep.
So like 3. I remember launching my podcast, and there's like 10 business podcasts. Now there's 5 million total with like 50,000 business ones. So I think, though, how many people have popped? I remember the end of the first wave was like Tony Robbins way before us, our time. Second wave is what I was part of. Tim Ferriss, Gary Vee. The last of the second wave was like Grant Cardone. I remember Grant Cardone, PBD. They all come on my podcast. Nobody knew who they were. Even Mark Cuban came on my podcast in 2015. Ben Shapiro, these guys. Since then, the third wave. How many new people have come out since, let's say, 2017 or 18? Hormozy? You could put Andrew Tate in there. I mean, a little handful in a world of 8 billion people. So that's actually why I built my partner program, which is I partner with people that are social media influencers. They're good at what they do, but they realize it's going to cost me 50 million. So I have my partner program, and I'll partner with them, use my social media brand, coupled with this is what I would do now. If I was starting all over, I would save $1 million in my bank account and go give it to a big influencer and say, put me on your story for a year, integrate me into your podcast monthly, put me on your Instagram twice a week. That's the best use of $1 million. I know it sounds like a lot, but you can either do $1 million that way, or you can wire Mark Zuckerberg $50 million for Facebook ads.
Yeah, we actually, I uncovered that for what we do in real estate, because I've spent millions of dollars on ads too. And so, we run ads all across the country for sellers to make offers to sellers to buy their homes.
Yes.
And so I've been doing that for my own business for a decade now. And I'm like, dude, why don't we just use my ads, my brand, my face, and let other people fund it?
That's right.
And so now it's like dual benefit.
Yeah.
Like, they're going to go leverage my brand, everything we already built. They get all the leads.
Yeah.
They're going to pay the ad spend. Obviously, my face gets out there even more.
Yeah.
They pay a retainer to do it.
Yes.
But it's like, what's the alternative? You going to go do it yourself?
There isn't. I tell you, the alternative is failure and pain.
Yeah, that's what I get. So I'm like, you're not going to do it on your own.
I had a guy who was like, he knew about my partner program a year ago, and he's like, oh, I already got my own cameraman. He's going to follow me around. Like, along came probably like Ben Stiller. You remember that? Where the dude follow him around to shoot a documentary. I got a guy following around me. I got video editors. They're going to make all these TikTok and reels and stuff. I said, this ain't going to work. You're going to go from, went from 300 views to 500 views. He's like, I doubled my views. I'm like, it's still nothing. You didn't reach escape velocity. And so he spent 20 grand a month. I said, call me in a year. Well, this week, guess who was with me in Vegas? He's like, you were right. I just dumped 250 grand, 20 grand a month on a cinema team to walk around with me and editors. He probably spent $1 million he wasted, he told me.
Yeah.
I said, you should have given me $1 million a year ago. That's how much my partner program's, $1 million. I've had it since 2016. Dude, it's never failed. The first guy to ever go in paid me $1.8 million. He made back that much money in 2 weeks. He made $12 million extra that year. 10 million extra, and he's worth for sure an extra 100 mil right now from that. So that's, if you don't have $1 million, rob a bank. Come to Vegas and bet it all on black. Bet it all on black, baby. If you're like, I want to be a social media influencer, I'm gonna take this. I was actually playing a little blackjack game yesterday and just messing around. And I asked the guy, because they have the progressive bet on there, and I said, you ever pay these out? And he's like, dude, I paid $1 million. The dealer told me, last year, a guy won $1 million at my table. He said, I changed his life. It was like a school teacher who retired, $1 million. I said, how much did he tip you? He said, $400.
No way.
I said, what a bastard. The dealer was still like in therapy from that. He's like $400 he gave him.
Yeah.
I said, if you have me win $1 million today, I'll give you half of it. Good deal. I'll give you $500,000 tip. Yeah.
I don't think you would, but
I would. Hey, if I knew he could predictably get me
if
a mil,
predictably do it. Yeah.
I told him I'd give him at least 50 G's.
Yeah.
But I would. I say, hey, if you're lucky, there's a guy, if you watch YouTube, type in the man who won the lottery twice. Okay. There's a guy in New Zealand. He won the lottery. It's a crazy video. So the news is coming out. He won like $300,000.
Yeah.
The news is there saying, oh, this is an amazing story. This guy won 300 grand. They take him and say, recreate scratching off the ticket. So as he's doing it, he scratches off and won another 300 grand. That is a man. Trust me, it is better to be lucky than smart. If you can wish one blessing for your children, not good looking, not tall, not smart, healthy, yes, lucky. I mean, this world is full of people who were lucky, just pure luck.
Yeah.
That's why sometimes people say, Tai, what's the strategy? What's the, why were you able to make money? And I'm like, it's probably 60% luck. Things outside of my control. By the way, when I say this at an entrepreneur conference, nothing is less well received than this talk I'm doing right now, because entrepreneurs do not like the thought that it wasn't all their free will.
Well, I also tell them it's good timing.
Yeah, timing, but some timing's luck.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like,
you want to know
similar things.
You want to know this crazy stat?
What?
The wealthiest people now of the last billionaires were people born around 1958. This is how much luck plays. If you were born too early in the 1900s, you probably went to World War I or World War II, which is the most brutal, bloody battles of all time. If you were born like late 40, let's say 45, you were 20 when the Vietnam War started.
Yeah.
A lot of people got killed or mentally scarred for life. If you were born in so Bill Gates, Steve Ballmer, Paul Allen, the first three guys to become mega billionaires, Microsoft's worth $3 trillion. They were all born within a few years of each other. They were just young enough to miss Vietnam War draft. They were like 14, but they were just there when the personal computer started. So Bill Gates at 12 was the only kid in America to have access to a personal computer from age 12. So he became a billionaire very young. Is that luck? Did Bill Gates decide to be born? His dad was one of the richest lawyers in the world. So 75% of self-made billionaires had wealthy parents or well above average parents.
Yeah.
So that's luck. You don't choose your parents.
Yeah, I did a talk on that at one of our Christian events, actually, because I just talked about real estate investors. I found a brand new way to create cash flow that's better than anything else I've ever done. It's better than rental properties, Airbnb, my flipping business, multifamily. It's the best thing we've done yet. It is building an automated wholesale business. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how do you build an automated wholesale business? Well, what if you had the same exact leads that I get every single month? What if you had a sales script that was so easy to close deals over the phone that you could do it all across the country? And what if you could sell your deals directly on the MLS without a real estate license and without having to actually own the property and getting top dollar? Well, we do that with this new method. And I made an 11-minute video where I go over how it all works, how you can start doing it today. So if you want to go see that video, go to wealthyinvestor.com, go click the case study and see what I'm talking about. As Christians, raising your kids properly.
Right.
And how that could set up for generations to come.
Yeah.
And I basically said, look, I'm a byproduct of maybe 50% was my own work ethic and hard work, but the other 50% was literally just being raised properly.
Yeah. Well, even more, if you're a Christian, what does the Bible say? A man has his plans, but God decides. Fate, destiny. So I think it's funny that religious people think they have a lot of free will. I thought the Bible says, before you were formed, I knew you. So I think if you're religious, there's a weird balance you have to strike. If you're spiritual and you believe in God, there's a weird balance between the free will that we have to exercise on this earth.
Yeah.
And the predestined life course that we have. There's 10 million kids born every year with HIV, with diseases. You can't say that kid has the same chance as you to make money.
Yeah.
So there's a luck element to life. And you don't call it luck. You could say that fortune, there's an ancient saying, fortune's a fickle mistress. Also, I also tell guys, I've met many entrepreneurs, they start making money and they get cocky. I said, fortune is a fickle mistress. She's like a woman you're cheating on with, and she's in love with you now, and you're going to leave your wife, and then she falls in love with somebody else. Yeah. And so a lot of men, you see them, that they're, I mean, even if you look at somebody like Elon Musk, man, he says, I thought I was going to go bankrupt every day for some time, for years.
Yeah.
He had fickle mistress. She was between, let's say 2000, I remember in like 2009, 2010 reading a Wall Street Journal article. I had just met Elon Musk. Nobody knew who he was at this little fireside chat. So I saw him in the news. It was like the man who conned $3 billion investment out of investors because Tesla was like not profitable, hadn't launched a car. So at that point, his fortune was low. People didn't like him, And so you have to understand that as a man, I can only speak to that, but I'm sure it's the same as a woman. You have to realize there's things in your control and you got to go all out on those. And then the chips as they fall, no man knows when he's going to die. You can't control all things. So I think you got to keep the humility there to go, all right, I'm a badass. I've practiced my skill. Tai, don't tell me there's any luck. Oh, there is luck, brother. And one day your luck going to run out. So stay humble.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even when you look at the Bible, the idea is that you don't actually own anything, right? Like it's all stewardship.
Right.
You know, God put it under your control for now.
Yes.
And then when you're gone,
that's right.
It's out of your control. Like it was never yours. And so, yeah, I think entrepreneurs struggle with the idea that, you know, there's a lot that's out of our control. Yeah. There's a lot that's like, I was even thinking about, you know, since I'm a millennial, I'm 35. I grew up in a weird age where cell phones were new, the internet was new, social media is new, and text messaging is new. We're not like, we became connected later. And I think millennials are obviously going to do pretty good from all of this because they kind of know two worlds. They know the pre-social media world and that world. And then Gen Z is growing up just in a full-on social media world. And then they're, from just most reports, like dealing with it really hard. Yeah. And it's like, man, I wonder what happens to that generation growing up in this.
That's what I'm saying. That's just luck.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
If you're born in that my grandma was born in the greatest generation. They call it the greatest generation. And you have the baby boomer generation. We humans we're narcissists. So we like to pretend that we have control. Or if you're Christian, you could say we have sinful nature. Yep. And that nature makes you pride. Pride cometh before a fall. So I think at the end of the day, you either stay humble or the world will humble you.
Well, you know, it goes back to this question I've been pondering myself. Okay, let's just say we know that now business is going to change faster than ever. Like it seems to be exponentially speeding up in terms of how quickly you can rise, how quickly you can fall, how quickly, you know, you could be a lawyer and now you're out of business. You could be Google and all of a sudden a company comes out of thin air and creates ChatGPT and now your search engine's jacked up. Like it's like, wow, these big companies don't even have moats the way they used to have them anymore. Small businesses could be disrupted tomorrow. Yeah. And it got me thinking, I'm like, man, so in the grand scheme of things, like we all know we're going to have to continue to work. Yeah. Right. So it's like maybe one day you're lucky enough to sell your business and avoid any kind of potential, like your business just getting wiped out from something completely out of your control. And then, you know, you make life-changing money and you're good. But on the other hand, right, that's not going to happen for most people. So I just kind of wonder if good entrepreneurs will just be the ones who are able to adapt and pivot the most and do, whether it be new industries, new ways of doing it. Cause it's like, you know, as a guy who's been flipping houses for 10 years, I'm like, you know, is flipping houses going to be around for the next 20, 30 years? I would think so compared to AI, other things.
They're going to be, my first idea for a software company in 2002 was a software that didn't have AI that goes out and just shows where the best deals are. So it'll become more efficient market.
Yeah.
Which will go back to people with more capital will win.
Yeah.
Because they'll overbid. That's what BlackRock's doing.
Yeah, they did that in Vegas.
Overbid.
They did that in Vegas at the auctions in 2010, 2011,
I moved to
2012.
Vegas in 2008 to buy real estate.
Yep.
It was the crash.
Yeah, they did that.
You could buy houses for $15,000.
I mean,
I wish I didn't have as much. I wish I had access to more money then.
Yeah.
Because I would have bought everything. Those $15,000 houses are $500,000 now.
Yeah. I mean, even when I got in 2010, I mean, yeah, I remember there were houses selling for 15, 20 grand.
15, I remember
crazy.
$8,000 house once.
But the average price of a home in Vegas in 2010 was $100K.
Yeah.
They're worth 500 now.
I remember telling people, you should buy farmland. In 2019, I did a Zoom call with a whole bunch of investors. I flew to Illinois. Most fertile farmland in the world is in Illinois. Okay. I drive to this country county. I get there, I get out of the car with a shovel and I'm digging. I'm like, look, this is black, fertile soil for 10 feet. I said, we should buy this. It's $8,000 an acre. That's 2019.
Yeah.
It's 24,000 now.
Yeah. Triple.
In 6 years, it's gone up 3x.
Yeah.
And so what's happened, I had a mentor named Alan Nation. If you Google him, he's the smartest guy I've ever met. He's the guy who taught me how to read a book a day, but he's dead, sadly. I wish I could have introduced the world to him because of all the mentors I've had, he's the only guy who was never wrong. And he told me when I was 19, Tai, homes as a percentage of your income in America is very low. In Europe, people spend like 50% of their monthly paycheck on rent.
Yeah.
Or their mortgage. He's like, homes in America are going to inflate massively. And that's what you're seeing right now. He said it's coming up to normal. So what we think is abnormal is coming up to normal. So you have be an early mover, man. All the money in the world goes to early movers.
Yeah.
You don't have to be first, but don't be last.
Well, that's what I keep telling people too. It's like this idea that you're going to be able to live off cash flow from rental properties right now. And I'm like, dude, don't count on it. In 15 years when it's paid down and it's gone up more. But today with rates and prices and
it's the price all bid in. Whoever will take the most pain will buy that house. So if you'll pay $1 million for the multifamily, and that will give you a nice life, somebody will go in, I'll pay $1.5 million and not have such a nice life as that person. Yeah. But I own the property. Yeah. So by the way, it's always been that way. It's just hyper magnified because the internet allows you to search everywhere. In the past, if you were buying Vegas real estate, almost all your competition was here in Vegas, but not anymore. You got the Chinese coming in. I'll tell you though, I have a solution. The average person, I got the greatest, most legitimate get rich quick the most legitimate get rich quick scheme in history that the average person should adopt. Figure out how to make $100,000, even $50,000 online, move to Thailand, Brazil, Bali, and relax for life. I cannot hate on a man who does that. Or buy a farm in America, a little homestead out in the countryside, and grow your own food and raise your own family. Basically, in America, if you want to stay in America, you can either get rich or move to Brazil. In Brazil, it's 8x. If you make $100,000 a year, it's equivalent of making $1 million. Yeah. A maid is $290 a month.
Yeah. I remember you saying that on the last show.
Yeah. So I tell people, a lot, if you know your...
Tim Ferriss talked about that in the 4-Hour Work Week.
But his was more like moving around a lot. I'm like permanently set up.
Just be there.
If you're a guy, move to Brazil, marry a Brazilian, have kids there. And people go, what about my family? I'm like, with the money you have, fly your mom in 4 times a year. Yeah. I'm like, you probably not even you're not even seeing your mom 4 times a year now, or buy her house in Brazil. Yep. Once it gets cold in Montana, your mom will gladly fly down. So I think most people, they're overly optimistic on how much money they'll make.
Well, and this is my point. What do you think happens as, like I said, businesses are going to keep getting wiped out quicker and quicker? Yeah. Like we just know that's going to keep happening. Yeah. Like even huge businesses. Yes. And then we know that people are going to start new businesses quicker than ever and catch steam quicker than ever. Like everything's just, it's like, man, if it would have taken you, because, people would start a business and it would take years for it to fail. Yes. Or whatever, right? Now it's like, dude, you're going to fail pretty quick or you're going to succeed pretty quick. in a lot of cases with technology.
Yeah.
So are the people who stay in business just the ones that are willing to accept failure and just keep switching? Like, how's it going to play out, you think?
Man, any man who ever predicts the future on camera usually looks like an idiot eventually. But I would say, Joel Salatin, my first mentor, farmer, he said, Tai, the cream always rises to the top. So you got milk, the cream will always rise to the top. I think no matter what happens, you'll be good you'll be great if you're in something you're super energetic about. People say do what you love. No, do what you have energy in. They're not always the same. Because if you don't wake up at 3 a.m. with an idea on what you're doing, you're going to lose to somebody who does. So I wake up in the middle of the night. I know I'm on the right track and I won't be replaced. When in the middle of the night, I'm like, I'll give you an example. I own a psychology company called 12 Types. Okay. We do psychology profiles. You can use it for dating, but we've developed an enterprise version for businesses. I have so much energy for over 15 years on psychology tests, quizzes. My mentor is Dr. David Buss, who's the #1 living scientist on psychometrics, which is personality. He's been my mentor for 11 years. Nobody will ever compete with me in this. I have so much energy. I've never met, even Dr. Buss, who's a Harvard PhD, and I have twice as much interest in it than him.
Yeah.
So if you can find something like that, I don't know if I love it. Love to me reminds me of like romance. Like, you know, you love a girl, so you're infatuated with her and stuff. To me, where do you have crazy curiosity, crazy energy? If you find that, you'll be fine in AI. But if you're doing something because you think it's a trend that'll make you money, you're going to get replaced with somebody who's super. I'll give you an example. I was talking to 2 guys here that are in the supplement business. I always ask this guy, they're in my private client program. I'm like, you ever wake up in the middle of the night and have an idea for your business? If they answer yes, I'm like, these dudes are making, they got 8 figures in cash. 3 years ago, they were broke. They have crazy wake up in the middle of the night energy, their brains looping like, oh, I think we should do that. And then I meet entrepreneurs and I ask them, I'm like, do you just kind of, when you go to bed or when you're doing something, you forget about what you're doing? You're in the wrong thing, man. You will get replaced. So that's what AI will replace. I don't think, look, our brains are probably quantum computers. There's a Nobel Prize winner named Roger Penrose. He says the reason AI is not going to fully replace humans is our brain is a quantum computer, which means at the quantum, which is the very teeny parts of this universe, we, for example, just have a creative idea out of nowhere that nobody's ever had. It's almost like humans are little creators, like little, well, most religions say humans are God. Jesus Christ said the kingdom of heaven is inside of you. Mm-hmm. Buddha is like about finding like God, the God within. So I think that AI, I think we're such good quantum computers that if you can feed your quantum computer, your brain, then AI will actually become your bitch. The question is, do we have a society that's now interested in self-improvement enough? That is the question. If not, AI is going to beat us.
Well, I think with tech, AI, social media, all these things, right? They just amplify the cream, is my point. So the cream just keeps rising and rising.
Even with AI, yes.
Well, whatever it was, right? Like, dude, if you were...
Any tech.
Yeah, any kind of tech, right? Yeah. If social media just amplified people who were already beast.
Yes.
It also will amplify you if you suck.
Yes.
And it'll just show that you suck.
Yes.
Right? So I think tech is just more of an amplifier to your point, right? Yeah. Like nobody will ever be able to... No one will ever be able to replace your creativity and your innovation and your ideas and what makes you you.
Yeah.
And
until quantum computers come, which that will be a bigger deal than AI, I think. 5 years from now, maybe. I mean, Google says they have their first quantum computer. It did a math problem that would take 1 septillion years for our current computers to solved it in 20 minutes.
What do you think about Bitcoin and quantum computers?
Well, then I just interviewed, Michael Saylor, who owns the second most Bitcoin in the world. maybe they can go in and extend the hash and stuff like that and make it more secure. I never put all your money in one asset class. And by the way, never miss an asset class too. So I see two extremes, people that put all their money in crypto and people who put none.
Yeah.
Avoid extreme ideologies. That's my favorite Charlie Munger saying. Avoid extreme ideologies. It's almost always wrong. So you should have money in real estate, but I don't think you should have all your money in real estate. One of my first mentors who was actually a billionaire, he's like, Tai, you ever meet somebody? He's like 70 years old. He made his money massive. He's actually the one who introduced the modern retirement home in America. He's in the 70s. He pioneered that. It's like, you ever meet somebody who thinks you can't lose money in real estate? He said, how old are they, Tai? I met somebody, I'm like, oh, this guy says you can't lose money in real estate. He said, how old? I bet you ain't over 50. He told me he had built a skyscraper in Houston, Texas during, I think it was the S&L crisis, savings and loan crisis in the 1980s. He said everything went to shit in real estate. Interest rates went to 21%. And he knocked the building down with one of those, those balls?
Yeah, wrecking ball.
I said, you don't want to sell it for, you don't want to just sell it for cheap. He's like, dude, things became worthless. $100 million building. So don't put all your money in one basket. Don't put all your eggs in one basket is a great saying that people, and I think that comes from crypto. I meet dudes, they either hate crypto or they have every penny in some altcoin.
Yeah.
And they're having a heart attack when it goes up. Trump coin went up and,
Yeah.
So spread your money out.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Keep some. I tell people your first $10,000 you make, spend $2,000 on a treadmill desk. That way you can work and stay healthy, not sit. Your first $50,000, spend $10,000 on a massage chair. This thing, you sit in them. Your first $1 million, buy a little piece of land for $200,000, a little homestead. Start building your house to survive. Because even, started buying farms over a decade ago. My mom was like, why are you buying farms? I said, well, in case some weird epidemic. I told her, I forgot I said this. That was 2014. I was like, what if some weird epidemic? I'm like, I got a farm I can go back to. I got my own chickens. I got And when 2020, when COVID came in March, I just took my whole family and we got in a car and drove to the farm. She's like, oh, you're right. So I've learned there's nothing you can trust 100%, not even yourself. So you need backup plan on top of backup plan to live a good life. Joel Salatin used to say, I'm a belt and suspenders man, Tai. If my belt breaks, my suspender's still holding up my pants. So you need to be a belt and suspender. That was one of my 67 steps. And if I was a real estate guy, like you teach people to be, I'd be like, I would not put 100. I don't think you should have 33, 33, 33, for example. You should have something. I use what I call 60, 30, 10. 60% of your wealth should come from one activity, and then you have one secondary one, 30%. And then 10% is your labs where you're trying new stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's how I structure my life. Right now, I'm focused on personal brand. So you can change it year by year, So 60% of my focus on there, but 30% I'm still buying businesses. I'm still acquiring assets. And 10% is labs. I got a new AI company coming. I'm launching an AI dating website valuations. Tinder used to be worth 1 billion. Now it's like 40 billion. So I'm testing all kinds of crazy things in my little labs.
So would you say that right now you're 60+% on personal brand stuff.
Yeah.
And then 10% or maybe even more just testing all this other stuff.
Yes.
Because there's no real secondary right now.
Well, no, my secondary, I buy businesses still. I bought multiple businesses last year, still as an investor. So I'm kind of 60%. The thing I like about personal brand, I think the only two businesses that are going to last in the future are AI and personal brand. So you either learn how to build AI companies or make yourself well-known. That's about it. Personal brand's not going to lose to AI. Like Taylor Swift will not disappear because of AI. Now, 50 years from now, there'll be robots singing to us, Yeah. But if you're just a DJ, you're going to get replaced by AI. But if you're, like I said, a Taylor Swift, she does $1 billion a year in concerts. It's crazy. She's fine. So you got to become a little mini Taylor Swift, you know? So the extroverts should become personal brands and the introverts should get good at AI companies.
Well, even like with personal brand, where do you see that, I don't know, benefiting you 10 years from now when all this is really
I think personal brand.
Like, is it going to be in the same way that it's done today or differently?
Better.
Point.
Here's why. As the population goes up, people get more confused who to listen to. So what do we naturally do? If you take 1,000 men at a football stadium or something, then they're all around there. The larger the group of men, the more we look for leaders.
Yeah.
So it's actually, as the human population gets bigger, people are more confused. People now are scrolling through social media. I'm like, oh my God, there's 1,000 life coaches. And next year there'll be 2,000. That means the top 2 life coaches will make the most, because 80% of people will be like, oh, I'm going to go with Tony Robbins because he's been around 30 years.
That's what I keep saying. It's like, it becomes really hard to.
The entrenched moat becomes powerful.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Humans are one of the greatest Nobel Prizes that's really easy to understand in the last 50 years was by a guy named Daniel Kahneman. And in the 1970s, he came up with this term, risk averse. Doesn't like risk. Believe it or not, nobody had really used that term before. And what he found is human behavior can really be predicted by being scared of risk. I thought it was, Tony Robbins was at this seminar and I listened to, he did a 4-hour talk and I was able to catch the last hour. And he said something I like. He said, your life is the space between what you want and what you're afraid of. I was like, that is a very intelligent statement. If you think about it in simple words, that's really what our lives are. So some people are afraid of everything and they don't have much dreams. So they live very small lives. Like Thoreau said, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. What's called resignation is confirmed desperation. That's most people because they have a lot of fear and very little ambition.
Yeah.
Then you meet other people who have huge ambition and almost no fear. That is actually what Elon Musk is. He says failure is irrelevant unless it's catastrophic, meaning only if it kills him or puts him in prison permanently does he care. He's like, it's irrelevant. I could fail at 50 rocket ships or 50 businesses. So if you look at his life, and I'm not even sure, I'm not saying he has a better life. Does a common man have a better or worse life than Elon? I saw a video where Elon's like, I'm not a happy person. I can't sleep at night, and I don't think anybody would want to be me. So I'm not even doing a judgment call, but he lives a bigger life.
Yeah.
He's bigger. So I think you really should try. I'm a big fan of like personal development, self-help. Like, how do you change? Maybe you have too much fear. And so you got to really think through your fear. Sometimes I say to myself, okay, then what? So I meet guys, and I was talking to a guy and I was like, dude, you have like $10 million in the bank. And he wants to build a personal brand. I was like, why don't you just spend $1 million?
Yeah.
Right. And he's like, well, what if
it doesn't work?
Yeah. So I started going. So I said, you need to say what if more. So you have 10 million. What if you only had 9 million? Tell me one thing that changes about your life. Anything. But when Daniel Kahneman did that Nobel Prize, people will think about that million they lost more than the 10 million they made.
Yep.
A lot of humans are glass half empty.
Way more than
so you have to manipulate your own mind and hypnotize yourself to start going, is this catastrophic? If not, it doesn't matter. And on the flip side, I meet some guys that are too ambitious. They don't have I haven't been in business. I've had 14 business partners. One had too low a fear. He feared nothing. And don't ever get in a car with an Uber driver who has no fear. We all been in one like that. They're got a little alcohol in their breath. They're texting on the phone. They're looking at talking. You're like, yo, look at 2 hands. I got 1 finger on the wheel. Yeah. That guy's just as dangerous. In fact, I'd rather have an Uber driver who has a lot of fear.
Yeah.
10 and 2 on the thing. I've been drinking 2 years. So I'm focused on you. So I think Tony Robbins is right. We all have to look at our fears and our dreams and make sure they're in balance.
How do you have longevity like a Tony Robbins or even like you for the last 18 years? Because obviously throughout business, there's so many ups and downs. There's the economy, there's businesses that go south, there's lawsuits, there's, everything. How do you continue to just keep moving forward?
Yeah. Well, I for sure, I like what Bruce Lee said. I don't fear the man who practices 1,000 kicks in one day. I fear the man who practices one kick a day for 1,000 days. So I learned to pace myself early. I've seen some people shoot past me and then burn out. And because the temptation, you see people shoot past you, then you try to go. Yeah, man, slow and steady wins a race. I see a lot of guys are like, I have a lot of students that are under 21, became millionaires under 21. It's actually, I have a student in Brazil. He's a pretty famous guy in Brazil. He made $7 million cash US in his bank in Brazil by age 16. Just let that kick in. It's 8x multiple. That's like $50 to $60 million in your bank. He struggles with a lot of depression. Yeah. I've seen my students who got too successful too fast. Life becomes like out of whack. Nothing feels good anymore. You made the equivalent of $60 million. But so it's actually better to be slow and steady.
Yeah.
If you got rich at 16, you'd never know which girl likes you just for you.
Yeah.
Right? So it's better to get rich slowly. Elon Musk he made his first billion at 42, I think. Warren Buffett, his first billion at 52. So I think people, I say that there's 2 errors to every human I meet. There's 2 mistakes that every human I meet makes. Going too fast or going too slow. You got your whole set of friends that they're too slow.
They don't do anything.
Yeah, they're too slow. They procrastinate. They overthink. And then you got your friends that are too fast and they both live shitty lives.
Yeah.
So life is in the balance. That's always been what my personal brand, what I meant it to be, what my TL brands was. I called it the good life, the 4 pillars of the good life: health, wealth, love, happiness. So if you're in your 20s and you have a choice between making $60 million by the time you're 30, but working your ass off, never exercising, never dating, never having a social life, or you could make $5 million by 30, but had time to exercise, go to the gym, have a social. I would be like, if you want the 5.
Yeah, I agree.
Because whatever number you get, you become desensitized to. That's why I saw a thing of Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. I got to interview Kobe Bryant before he died, sadly. And, those guys all say, once you win the NBA championship, you did it your whole life. The next day you feel empty. You're like, what next? What can I do next? I guess I can win again. So a lot of dudes this is our genes tricking us. We're hypnotized by a goal that if you got it, you would instantly stop being happy about. It's like I have a friend, he lives in Scandinavia, where there's a lot of beautiful women. And he was dating a woman and she broke up with him. And he was so depressed because he's like, oh, I said, did you look around you? You live in the place where like, and he's like, oh, maybe I should see the glass half full. Sure enough, 1 year later, he's like, my life is better than it has ever been. I said, why did you go 1 year that you'll never get back depressed when on day 1 you could have thought it through logically and be like, well, why do I want to even be with a woman who doesn't even like me anymore? You should be overjoyed.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I have a guy friend, he was dating this girl. He goes, I need to break up with this girl. I need to, but he didn't like that conversation.
Yeah.
So, and she was pretty, but he didn't like her. He's like, she's kind of dumb, da-da-da-da. And so, but the relationship lingered for like a year. Mm-hmm. Once a month, he'd be like, oh man, I should break up with her. Da-da. 1 year later, she breaks up with him.
Yep.
I think he's going to call me and be like, hell yeah, she did the job for me. He was depressed. I said, wait, didn't for the last 12 months, every month you go, I wish I wasn't with her. And now that you're not with her, you're sad. That's how the human brain tricks you.
Yeah.
Because she took away. She did reverse psychology. Now he's like, oh, I wish I had her. I said, you've been miserable for 1 year, man. So the human brain, unfortunately, in the modern world is getting tricked all the time. So you have to, I used to wear a shirt that I had printed at the gym. Don't be the bitch of your own brain. Most people are.
That's crazy.
It's hard. It's a trick, man.
That's crazy.
we have a lot of bodybuilders. You need to be a brain builder, man. That's why I always tell people to read. To me, books are like reps and sets in the gym.
Yeah.
And hey, it's great to go. My dad was a pro bodybuilder. He was on the cover of Mr. Universe, Joe Weider's magazine. He's like, there's a lot of benefits of bodybuilding, but they still don't compare with benefit of brain building.
I remember you mentioned earlier you had that company Mentor Box. That was kind of like the premise of it.
Yeah.
Is that still around?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Mentor Box. So basically,
that was the first time I ever saw you, by the way. Was that
really?
Cardone's 10X?
Okay.
2018.
Yeah. You're a real estate guy, so you were there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember you were talking about that company. I was like, oh, that's a cool idea. I didn't really know anything about you at the time. I was new to the business space. I didn't know any of these guys.
Yeah.
I'm like, why are people going crazy over all these random dudes I've never heard of?
Exactly. Yeah, it's funny how, you know what's funny about fame? I tell people never get too cocky because fame disappears faster than anything you can imagine. I went last week to the White Lotus premiere. It's a HBO show.
Yeah.
Patrick Schwarzenegger, Arnold's son, is a friend of mine, and I am an investor in one of his businesses, so he's one of the main characters. So I go there. They do the after party. All the White Lotus people who are like walking the red carpet, everybody's taking pictures. I look over on the couch. There's Paris Hilton. Okay. Paris Hilton.
Yeah.
Not one person noticed, not one photographer. What people don't realize is 10 years ago, 12 years ago, the most famous human on all of Earth, the most famous human, the most Googled person was Paris Hilton for 5 years.
She was like the first influencer.
Kim Kardashian was Paris Hilton's assistant that organized her closets.
Yep.
So I'm saying Kim Kardashian built off, and I was just thinking, oh my God, you could be the most famous person on Earth for years. And 15 years later, you're sitting at HBO. I was with a friend. I said, go up and say, big fan, can I have a picture with you? And they go, you think she'll be bothered? I said, no, she'll be overjoyed that one person, there was 800 people there.
Yeah.
She'll be overjoyed that one person recognized her.
Yeah.
So that's why I tell people, you're talking about, you go to these events, like people are like, Tai, are you well known? I'm like, don't think about it that much. Yes, I'm well known, but
yeah,
everybody's going to be forgotten. And by some people have, like, with women over 60 and even guys over 60, nobody knows where I am. I like going to where there's a whole bunch of old people. I'll have zero face recognition because they're not on social media.
Yep.
So it's like, and then, there's a whole new generation that's 12 years old. They don't know us.
Yeah.
So just be famous on a 1 to 10 scale. Be a 7, 8, or not a 9 or a 10. 7 is anywhere you go in the world, once a week, somebody recognizes you. Mm-hmm. An 8 is anywhere you go in the world, once a day, somebody recognizes you. Mm-hmm. Oh, I know you, officer. A 9 is every hour someone recognizes. This is where you start getting into trouble. And 10 is every minute. So like Donald Trump's a 10. So he needs like 25 dudes with Uzis walking around. A 9 is like Justin Bieber. I've touched up high, and I actually was growing my Instagram at 1 million a month, and I stopped. I grew 1 million I know a formula that will work, a combination of giveaways and collabs and stuff. In 2016, I forget, in December, I was growing about 35,000 followers a month. And by January, I was like, I'm turning this off. I could be at 10 million followers. It's pretty mechanical how to do it, right? Mr. Beast is now at 300 million YouTube subscribers. He says if he lost it all, he could start with a faceless channel and build it to 10 million subscribers. So I've learned you want to be just famous enough. You can get into clubs that other people can't get into. If there's an event, you can sneak in. Like, you want to have that practical stuff, because pure fame is hell.
Yeah.
It's a cage.
It's crazy. Well, bro, I know you got other things you got going on tonight and everything else, man. But, dude, I appreciate you coming by.
No, thanks for having me.
Awesome catching up.
Seeing the wealthy way. I like this set. It's good.
Yeah.
So is it wealthyway.com or do you use Ryan Pineda?
I got both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which do you use more?
I actually don't really use either. So if you go to wealthyway or ryanpineda.com, it'll kind of just show everything we've got going on.
Okay.
But for, I guess, the main offer, wealthyinvestor.com for real estate.
Okay.
Yeah.
What? And so how does it, the offer is, what's the price point on it?
Our main products are, well, we changed everything to monthly recurring now. So it used to just be all high ticket. Now it's monthly recurring, anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 a month. And
do they get deal flow from it?
Yep. So we'll give them leads. We'll give them softwares. We'll give them one-on-one coaching. We'll give them everything.
And the churn's good on that?
Yeah.
So it's a lesser cost of entry. You're like, look, sign up, it's $1,000 a month, cancel anytime kind of thing.
Yeah. And I mean, we've done a ton before when it was like, hey, you know, it's 10,000, it's 25,000 or whatever. Right. The problem is, and you know this, like with just education, it's like, it's high churn because after you learn the thing, what keeps you in. So for me, I'm like, all right, you know what? I want to switch to more business in a box service based.
Yeah. With software, it sounds like.
With software, with lead, like literally we give them leads every month.
So these are people who want to buy single family homes?
Yeah.
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 So you run ads, you generate lead flow.
Yep.
So you're essentially kind of a lead gen software for them.
Yeah.
And the churn rate then is lower because people feel like they're getting continual benefit.
Yeah. And because, I mean, if you stop, it's like your lead flow stops.
Yeah.
Your software stop.
Yes.
So it's not the
What's the software
anymore. One's a CRM.
Yeah.
So it's their website, everything. Yeah. And then the other is just kind of like a deal finding / evaluation software.
Right.
So it's like, you know,
so you put in a
MLS,
deal.
You'll be able to look up deals. You'll be able to look up comps and all that.
So do you think you can get that recurring to pretty big?
That's the goal. So we switched to that. I remember you and I talked about it in September or whatever, low ticket.
Yes.
And then I think right after that, I jumped to this monthly.
Oh, good.
Because like 97 a month is hard.
Yeah, really 97s. Yeah.
So 1,000 to 4,000 a month is a lot better. And you get better clients.
Yes.
So
that's one thing that most complaining people you'll ever deal with are the ones who paid you the least.
Yeah.
I've had people go into like my $1 million level or $100,000. I just had a guy go in my 100K, Garrett White. You know who he is?
Yep.
He has and he went into my...
He was here a couple of months ago.
Yeah. He went into my $125,000 private coaching, right? After the first call, he's like, I already got like $1 million worth of value. He's like, I don't even know if I need more calls. So I met him up for breakfast. So like a client like that, he's a wealthy dude, is like more logical. Yeah. Okay, if I pay this much, I just need this much value. The people that barely qualify for that, they are like messaging you all the time. It's a very invert. That's why I like to go up market.
Yeah.
Weed people out with price. I think you can build a personal brand that's luxury market or one that's more commodity based. I've done the commodity. You have to be really good at marketing and really pump out a lot of ads with the, like I said, I can do an event with 100 people and make $5 million.
Yeah.
That's like $50,000 an attendee.
Yeah.
If you're selling a 2K, a 10K, you need to have 5,000 people in there.
Yeah.
And when you get 5,000 people in there, you get weirdos. You know, when you get 100 people that can pay, let's say that can pay 50,000 a piece, that's a group of people that's teaching me stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, in general, you want to go up market almost always if you can. Mm-hmm. And nothing sets that like price.
Yeah.
You raise your price, people disappear, but new people pop in.
Yeah.
It actually takes a lot of courage to raise your prices.
And I watched Russell do that at the event. He sold a couple, well, I don't know how many he sold, but he had $1 million offer.
Yeah, you mean not this one? He just, I wasn't there that day, but yeah, I think I was the first one to do that. In 2016, I started, and there's a couple people. I think Grant might have something like that.
I know Tony Robbins does too.
Yeah, Tony was before me. He had $1 million one in like the 80s or something.
That's a crazy.
Yeah, but he had like 2 clients. He always said I have like 2. He had like the hedge fund guy, John. What was that guy's name? He had a big hedge fund guy. I don't think it was selling a lot in the 1980s.
Yeah.
It was just a couple billionaire guys that were like, we want you to be our personal coaches.
He's like, all right, $1 million.
But these hedge fund, dude, I lived in Manhattan for a year on Billionaire Row. It's this part right underneath Central Park. And I lived in the coolest place. It was a 9,000 square foot penthouse, full floor.
Yeah.
And so you think you're on top of the world. This was a $38 million apartment. Okay. Mm-hmm. I lived there for a year. Right in front of me, the guy Citadel is a big hedge fund.
Yep.
He built a $252 million condo.
Gee.
That's what I was saying about no matter where you are, you get desensitized. So then it was right blocking my view of Central Park. So it's like you could be living a $38 million apartment, and then you look out, this dude has a $250 million, and you're like, oh man, I'm slumming it. And then you're like, that's why it's good that I didn't grow up with money, because I do not forget where I came from. So it's not that hard for me to feel satisfied. But I see some dudes get out of touch, man. And I'm like, if you have money in your bank account, you should be happy every day.
Yeah.
And if you're not, get a hypnotist, get a therapist, take whatever you got to do your LSD, something to mind trick yourself. Because I think the saddest thing on earth is to have it all and be depressed.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of people like that.
There's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Be depressed when everything sucks. Then it makes sense to be depressed. I'm like, bro, you got everything. How are you depressed? You know, you should wake up every day and be like, I'm gonna picture myself. It's like, yo, the average person, if you make $400,000 in the US on your tax return, taxable income,
great. Yeah.
You're in the 1% of America. Yeah. 400,000. If you're making 4 million, I have a guy in my private client who's one of my better success stories in the last 5 years. He's on his way to being a billionaire. He's worth maybe 500 million. He makes $1 million a week after tax, just stacking cash, 50 million a year in a software type business. He really struggles with depression. It's insane. Sometimes I want to be like, pow, 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 man. I'm like, what is wrong with you? I mean, if you go up to the average person on the street, say, I'll put 50 million in your bank account, but you're gonna have to be happy every day for 1 year. Everybody would say yes to that, but he really struggles with it. Now that, by the way, that's called mental inflation. When he first made his first million was when he was happiest.
Yeah.
Because he went from zero. In 2019, he had a job making $7,000 a month as a computer programmer.
Whoa.
And now he's up to, he's doing.
Well, to your point, he just made it too fast.
Yeah. It's like,
he made it too fast.
But you know what I tell him? Man, that's why I have a farm. I'm getting him to buy a farm. He was just sending me one. I said, you got to get grounded, man. If you're a man, that's why I said, when you make your first million, get a piece of land. Being in the city all the time messes up your brain. I'm sure of it. That's why I only spend, I got that big house. Sometimes I feel guilty. Got a 25,000 square foot house in Beverly Hills. I only spend 1/3 of the time there, 30% of the time. I'm going to the farm straight from here. The farm I'm going to, I have a log. I have two. The one I'm going to is a log house built by the Amish, 1,200 square feet.
Where's it at? What state?
It's in Virginia at the Shenandoah Valley. But I'm saying I sleep better there. I'm just unhappy. So I really think as you make money, you got to force yourself into some scenarios where you stay down to earth, or else you just get wacky. I know dudes that never leave big cities, and it's guys look at people in Miami. These dudes are all whacked out. You see them on social media, and they're like, "Oh, yeah." It's like,
what do you think about recurring revenue as a whole? Because you talked about like certain guys, like tech guys. Usually, they got some recurring revenue.
You mean the business being recurring revenue, like what you're doing?
Yeah,
I think it's to do what you're doing is the ultimate sweet spot if you can pull it off. 1,000 to 4,000 recurring. If you put 1,000 people on there, you're doing 2 million a month. So if you have software that actually will have low churn rate, I think it is hard to do that on pure coaching, for example.
Yeah, it's almost
so in pure coaching, you're better off taking 25,000 upfront one-time payment than $1,000 a month because people ain't staying 25 months.
Yep.
So you have to adjust pricing. One of my mentors, his name's Professor Jean Zhang from Wharton. He's the #1 expert in the world on pricing. So I talked to him. I have a board of advisors and mentors that I pay 15 guys. He's one of them. So I know a lot about pricing from him. A good book is Smart Pricing that he wrote. It's the best book probably on Amazon that you can buy on pricing. But if you can pull off a luxury price point on recurring, what I would say a couple things is I would test out ARR too. So you could say it's $1,000 a month or it's $10,000 a year. We auto rebill, and you can do a contract. I would get a contract on those. Grant Cardone built his empire like that, like $2,000 a month for those dealerships, and they have to sign 3-year contracts. And if they didn't pay, he showed up like, I don't care if you use it, you signed this.
Yeah.
You can't do that with individuals though.
Yeah.
An individual's hard to go after. He was going after car dealerships that might have.
We don't do contracts either.
Yeah.
Now.
as you should consider that. And one thing I would say for you is think about an enterprise package for somebody who goes, there's always a person who will pay. So if you have a 1 and a 4, man, you could definitely have a 10K.
Yeah.
There's some people, there's a guy.
Well, I have a 10K. That's with me. So I'll help them.
Is it recurring?
Yeah.
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 So they get access to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you already have a 10, you'd be surprised. You can charge a 20. I've got an agency. We have like 25,000 a month rebill. People stay. I got guys stay on it for long. Marketing, if you're really good, they'll stay.
Are you essentially the CMO of your company?
No, no. I think you should. I'm not even the CEO of TL Brands. I have my own family office, so TL Capital, I'm the CEO.
Got it.
But I have more. I don't like one. I have 2 CMOs. I call them. I have co-officers.
But you still do a lot on the marketing side.
Yeah, right? I do a daily call. I think you should meet your team daily, ideally in person if you can't on Zoom. And today I go from, I have 14 rooms people break into. Customer support room, tech room, branding room, product room, legal, lawyers go in one room, accountants. And so I try to touch all.
How long does it take you to do daily meetings?
I set it for an hour. On Mondays, we do an hour and a half, but it's just an hour and 10:20 to 11:20. And I try to make.
So you do 5 minutes a room, basically?
Yeah. And I don't, it's better to do like Monday, you do some rooms, so you spend more time too. And there's some rooms way more attention needed from me. So, but I have many overlapping people. So I have like, COO, and I have an executive chair of my board who is really kind of like a CEO. Mm-hmm. And I like to have belt and suspenders. Yeah. If somebody takes a vacation, my company runs 365 days. We never are done because I have Muslims who work for me. I'm like, you know what? They always say diversity is our strength. I'm not sure that's true, except in this one instance. Because the Christians that work for me in America, they can't fathom there's humans who have no idea what Easter is.
Yeah.
Like Muslims, I got an office in Pakistan. They're like, what's Easter? They essentially have no idea who Jesus Christ is. So Christmas, I'm like, I tell everybody, don't you dare take a vacation that's not in the country you're in. The whole reason I have a global company, we just run all the time. So I was like, the Muslims have like this, they have a couple big celebrations. Americans have no idea what it is.
Yeah. So
I like that. And I have people in every time zone. So
how many people are in your business now?
The ideal is 150. So if I get bigger, I cut. There's something called Dunbar's number. Now I've had 8,000 employees, but I'm saying psychologically, your ideal life is what is called Dunbar's number. It's named after a famous sociologist, Robin Dunbar. Human brain is built to have about 150 people you interact with your whole life. So you have, let's say, 20 family members, then you have like 20 friends, then you have a larger acquaintance group and stuff. So they can look at the synaptic relays in our brain and do the math. About 10,000, 150 people is you keeping track of 10,000 connections because you're keeping track. So look, imagine this was a desert island that we're on and there's 6 of us. I would have to track how you saw me, right? So that takes up part of my brain. But I also have to know how you track her. Mm-hmm. And how she tracks you back. Yeah. So 150 humans in your life is actually, you're keeping track of 10,000 relationships. So that's the most humans can do comfortably. So in an ideal world, companies go up to 150 people and then they get separated from each other, like tribes. And maybe the tribes all meet once a year. So I think the best way, if I wanted to build a 1,500 person company, total working, I'd have 10 subsidiaries with 150 people each.
10 cohorts.
And they're their own tribe, and we meet twice a year at a retreat in Hawaii or something like that.
Do you see that companies decreasing the amount of people they need with AI?
Yeah, that's what I said, man. People coming out of college, all the people that argued with me, I told you college wasn't going to be a big rotation. They said, Tai, have you seen the math? People will go to college, get way higher income. I'm like, first off, don't predict the future by the past. Second off, those people make a lot more money because They got rich parents and they went to Harvard. So of course, it's not the college degree. The richest people who ever went to Harvard were the dropouts. So Harvard's correlated with your wealth, but not causative. So yeah, I told people, I said, it's going to be you're going to be sad in 10 years when you spent 6 years getting this MBA in business. And it's like, then Elon Musk puts out, MBAs are all stupid. Have you seen his thing? He's like, don't hire MBAs. So now it's like MBA is like a negative thing. So yeah, man, you got to tell people.
Yeah, I saw PBD post something.
You got to look around corners.
These companies that are doing, $100 million with 30 employees, and it's like,
that's rare. WhatsApp is 35 people and sold for 20 billion. Very rare. In general, a company's safer when it's doing at least 30 million in revenue. Okay. And at 30 million in revenue, you can have 150 global staff. That way you have people who work when other people, if you lose, you don't have so many key employees.
Yeah. You don't have as much key man risk.
There's not that, there are companies that do 100 million with 30 people. But if you look at the Forbes list, all the dudes on the Forbes list have about 100,000 employees at the top of the Forbes list. The people that have the top 10 wealthiest people pretty much all have at least 100,000 employees.
Yeah.
So, but that's the jungle. You don't have to go into the jungle to have a good life, man. I tell people, making a lot of money is the jungle. Are you sure you want to go in there? I'm like, you're out here on the edges. You can make 1 to 10 million in the edge. And the edge, there's no quicksand, there's no leopards, there's no snakes.
Yeah.
And some guys are like, oh, I'm not going to be happy making 3 million. I'm like, okay. Wait, call me when you're in the jungle. And you're like, well, everything in here is trying to kill me.
Yeah.
So we look at these hyper wealthy people and we go, oh, if I was only them. And some of the wealthiest look back at other people and go, oh, if I was only still like that.
Yeah.
Almost any billionaire, if you ask them, I have a guy that is about 54. It's great American rags to riches story. He's in my private client and he moved from Africa when he was a little kid. He doesn't even know how old he is because he was born in he says, I was born in the bush. My mom and my dad had like 20 wives or something. He's like, no one knows when I was born. He's like, I estimated, because his passport says he showed me, it says he's born January 1. I'm like, really? He's like, no, I just didn't know when I was born. So when I came here, I'm like, January 1. Anyway, but he's exited. I'm helping him sell his business. He had an offer for 98 million. And I was like, let me coach you for a second. And we laid off the CEO, swapped it out, changed the whole operation of the company. And 4 months later, he signed for 134 million. So I helped him get an extra 36 million. But I was talking to him. I was like, okay, you saw his company. He's the only owner. Get a nice check for 134 million. Rags to riches dream. And he's like, I asked him, but you're 50 now. If you could have cashed out, he said he could have cashed out at 30 with 10 million.
Yeah.
I said, in hindsight, what would you do? Almost always they're like, I should have cashed out at 30 with 10. And then been an artist and done all the stuff that I want to do. I think that we overestimate. Again, remember I said the two extremes? So I meet guys that underestimate money. I'll tell you, money's not really that important. That's not true. Money is life. But on the flip side, the quantity of money that you actually need to live a baller life is not 100 million.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many. I do calls every day. I put 2 or 3 slots on my calendar for my sales team to connect me with real wealthy leads that they want to talk to me before they decide. So I talk every day to 3, and I ask people every time, just so I know who I'm doing with, what's the minimum amount of wealth you can have where you'll feel good about yourself? They all say 100 million. I'm like, let me get this straight. If I wired you 99 million, you'd be depressed? No, 99. Okay, so well, then why'd you say 100? I said, what's the minimum? And I think that most people get your net worth to 1 to 10 million and then live in a low cost of living place. Or realize you're going to have to go into the jungle. To make 100 million, let's say you have investors, you got taxes, your company will be valued at, let's say, 1 times gross earnings. To put 100 mil in your pocket after tax, if you live in America or Europe, you're going to have a $400 or $500 million revenue company.
Yeah.
Now I've had those before and I don't like them. It's a lot of lifting, dude. I had 60 C-suite people that reported to me every day. And in hindsight, I'm like, I don't like that life.
Yeah.
You know, so you got 400 million, you own 60%, you exit for and usually you don't exit for all cash.
Yeah.
That's 240 million. Your cut, by the time you pay taxes, if you live in California, you're going to at least 30% is going to go out the door.
So you learned you didn't like that. So how did you get out of it?
Well, you can exit. I mean, inevitably you exit stuff. So I think that, look, here's what I found. A part of me did like being big. I'll tell you the best thing about being big. You have access to really good caliber people. A lot of really talented people don't want to work for a 4-person organization.
Right.
It feels not that professional. You know what I'm saying? So if you do a daily Zoom call, sometimes I do a daily Zoom call and like 300 to 500 people would be on the call.
Right.
There's a certain cool excitement to it. You can bring in cool consultants, you know? So I like that element. But as I said, you have to know, this is what I'd tell men. I'll end with this practical advice. Use ChatGPT to ask. I'll do it right here. This is how you figure out what you should do with your life with money. Go to ChatGPT and you're a man. Let me try it on you. Okay. All right, I'm on the Ryan Pineda. I always press this one button here. Sometimes I leave 45-minute voice memos that's the most I've ever done for ChatGPT. I woke up in the middle of the night on my farm and I couldn't sleep. I left a 45-minute one and I said, at the end, I pressed the button, it translated it, and I said, maybe it was 35 minutes, over 30 minutes. I said, what are 100 things that are blind spots in my life? It was crazy cool. It gave me some very good ideas. But I'm here in Ryan Pineda's podcast. So I'm going to ask him a series of questions. ChatGPT, I want you to give me the math equation. We want to know the present value of a future flow of income that he wants. So you're 35.
Yep.
What's the dollar amount if it was paid monthly in a guaranteed pension or annuity that you would retire? So let's say a competitor wants to come in and take you off the market.
Monthly?
What's the number? And by the way, the absolute minimum, let's pretend this is real. I have a suitcase here and I'm like, this is a done deal.
And I would retire and be done forever.
You could do anything you wanted.
Yeah.
You could still help people and go and speak at some conference, but you're done.
I would probably say like $250 a month.
Okay. And that's pre-tax or after tax?
Let's say after tax.
Okay. So Ryan Pineda on this podcast I'm on, he wants $250,000 after tax. He lives in Vegas, so no state tax, but he has federal income tax to pay ordinary income. So do the math on how much that is pre-tax, because he wants $250 post-tax. And that's how old do you think you'll live till?
Hopefully old. I don't know, 90.
Okay. Let's say he lives to 90 years old. And once he dies, he doesn't care that much about money. His kids were going to have to set their own destiny. How much money does he need today, assuming normal inflation and normal interest rates of the last 20 years? How much does he need in his bank account today? I became a CFP years ago. There used to be financial calculators. You had to do all this math. Now ChatGPT because the average person is never going to figure out. Most people hate math, right? So let's see. It's going to give a couple projections because it has to calculate based on different. You can do what's called a Monte Carlo simulation. So if interest rates are high, low, inflation, that's why I said, just give me.
It's crazy that it can take all the voice note and quickly process it.
It also knows when remember how I was kind of talking to you? It'll know.
Just cut that out.
But it's analyzing. This takes a second even for ChatGPT. By the way, ChatGPT, you have to realize, is being run by nuclear power. Hold on. How much at age 35 to pay him? It gets a little confused. By the way, whenever you use ChatGPT, double check. The first result's almost always wrong. Okay? It miscalculated. It thought you were only age 90 already. So I had to remind it, wait, how much at age? By the way, you need to have pre-tax $396,825 to be left with $250. Yep. So you need $38.58 million in your bank account today.
And then
so if you got an offer for your business for $38 million, $58,000. Take that, bitch.
Yeah, because
All right, 38,580,000.
Yeah.
Take it. 36 mil, you're done. And by the way, if you think about it and you go, I could do with half that much. I could do with 125. If you can get an offer for 18 mil. I had a guy in my SMMA program. They built an agency and exited it before 30 for 17 million. They can almost pull that off.
And what's the plan? You have 38 million. You just live off the interest. Is that how that?
No, you could just take the 250. You'd have,
it just
yeah.
It's
You could invest it if you wanted to.
It's not even investing.
No.
So you really need less.
That's right.
Because I wonder what the number would be.
The 38 million, it's calculating that your investment returns only 6%. Watch.
Oh, okay. So I'll change it. It is investing.
If he thinks he can invest it at 9%, how much less money? What's the total? Because it's going to go down. But my point is, even for what you want, okay?
Yeah.
You don't need 100 million.
No, you don't. No.
I see all these dudes doing podcasts and they're like, oh, I saw a guy, 2 25-year-olds doing a podcast and they're like, yeah, if I got 100 million, I'd be depressed because that's not a lot of money. You can spend it fast. What the fuck are you doing? What do you mean you can spend 100 million fast? Are you brain dead? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. So if you even got a 50% higher return,
yeah,
I wonder if that would drop it.
Oh yeah,
to like 20 million.
I'm gonna tell you this.
I bet you it's
an average person in America. I've done a survey. The average person is happy with a net worth of 10 million.
Yeah,
total net worth. So
that'll get you like 100K a month.
Yeah, you're 20 million. It also depends how old you are. If you're 50, you don't need as much.
Right.
You don't have as much runway. So I think. And by the way, let me just put this. I'm going to show you something crazy. If you didn't mind going back to the Philippines, you said you saw a family there?
No.
Okay. Well, Philippines is the best place for cheap living. Like Brazil's even better than Brazil.
Yeah.
Dudes, guys are like, oh yeah, man, I'm attracting all the gold diggers. They make $1,000 a month. You get gold diggers in Philippines. Okay. So anyway, let's just do this math. This is for 250,000 for sure in Philippines. If you're making $25,000 a month, you don't even know what to do. My friends from Argentina, back when I started making like 50 to 100 grand, I was like, it was like 2004 or 5, 2000, like a month, I was making like 50 plus a month. It's like, what if I moved to Argentina? Like, what could I rent a cool penthouse? He's like, there's nothing over $4,000 a month. That's like the top of the thing. The Philippines is like, you ain't going to have anything for $10,000 a month. It's like a compound. Yeah. So you would need to so let's say you need 10% of that.
Yeah.
So to do this in the Philippines, you need 3.8 million.
Right.
You just sell right now and go live in Philippines and never. I once did the math when I lived in Beverly Hills. I had a friend go to Philippines and I did the math on how much I was paying. I had a butler, it was a complicated house. And how much it was 92,000 a month was the lease. And then with like the swimming pool and all that, it was like 120,000 plus 10. It was like 130,000. Okay. A month. And I did the math and I was like, I could have 600 assistants in the Philippines. I was thinking I could have one person, his only job. It would be the greatest quality of life. You have one job. Every day you shine 5 of my pair of shoes. It'll take you 20 minutes. I got nothing else. All you do is make my breakfast smoothie. I want the freshest fruit. You go out all day, pick pineapples, and make it fresh. So I sometimes wonder if we're just killing ourselves living in rich countries. America's actually really expensive. And I make a lot of money. I don't think you should live in a city in America. I think most people should leave the cities.
Farm.
Go to a farm or go to another country.
Yeah.
I go to Sweden and Denmark. People say that that's an expensive country. No, it's not, because you don't need a car. So you don't need car insurance. They don't go out to eat that much. If you go on dates, women pay for themselves. They think it's weird. So if the only thing that's but you can get a nice apartment in Copenhagen for $2,000 a month. You could definitely live in Copenhagen, a totally normal life for $4,000 US a month. And trust me, Copenhagen's a better city. America has no good cities. The only potentially, I know you like Vegas, but I'm going to stick with what I say. The only good city in America, if we're logical, is San Diego. It's got voted the best weather in the world, 330 days of sun. You're on the ocean. You can be skiing and surfing within an hour. You're close to Mexico if you want to go down and get, and it's a glorious place in every way. It's got, it's part of Southern California, which is one of the largest GDP, so it's great for business. Manhattan's a horrible place. I've lived there. I lived in Miami twice, in the best parts of Miami. It's also a horrible place. LA, if you can, like the way I live, I don't have to drive anywhere. But normal people living in LA, why would you ever live in LA?
Yeah.
I'm like, go live in Paris or something. Although Paris has this problem. Go live in Stockholm for a year. I think people should be more adventurous. The modern world has so many problems to it that are unfixable. Like Sigmund Freud said in Civilization is Discontents. He said people are trying to search for the purpose of life because maybe you can't find it. People are trying to find the perfect life. If we assume the modern world has more problems than good things, anxiety's at an all-time level, obesity's at an all-time, everything's wrong in the modern world, except you can kind of live an adventurous life.
Yeah.
I like on Twitter, there's kind of these buzzwords on any social media platform. And Twitter has this one, you can just do things. People just post. So they're like, you know what? I just woke up today and was like, I'm going to go take my whole family and live in Paris. You can just do things. That's the only good thing. So when I meet people that are trapped, I'm like, you can, and they say, oh, I don't have money. Bullshit. Any American can go to Brazil right now.
Yeah.
And live on $1,000 a month.
Yeah. I say that not in the extreme way of going to Brazil, which is better, but I'm like, dude, nobody forces you to live where you live.
Yes.
Like, don't complain about rent because you can't afford this city. Don't live here. Nobody go live in the Midwest.
Exactly.
Go live somewhere that's cheap. Nobody's forcing you to do anything.
Yeah. And the irony is it's like, get a piece of land, grow food, and it's way better. Whole Foods is $14 a dozen right now. Okay. $14 a dozen. I can grow my own eggs for $14 a month. 14 chickens cost you nothing. I mean, you could buy little chicks for like $1 or $2 a piece.
Oh, man.
And then you could eat them when you're done.
Yeah, grilled chicken.
No, but my point is, it's like people act like, no, Ryan, if I listen to your advice, my quality of life would go down. It would go up.
Yeah, you're not.
When I go to my farm tomorrow versus Beverly Hills, I do not. And I go from 25,000 square foot house to 1,200. The Amish built house is way better feng shui. For example, these big houses in Beverly Hills, it's a very nice house. My bedroom is and bath is like, I think you saw it. It's like,
I've been there. Yep.
It's 2,500 square feet, which is twice as big as a way better feng shui. Like the Amish built with wood pine, it still smells like pine. I sometimes lay in my bed and I'm like, oh, this thing's in Beverly Hills, everything kind of, these big mansions are very kind of sanitized. So I think people should listen to your advice because they act like, oh, I'm compromising that. My quality of life goes down.
No.
I guess maybe you don't have access to as fun a nightlife.
Yeah. But if you're broke, you shouldn't be worried about that.
Yeah. And you can go on Tinder and you'll stand out if you got a horse next to you. Guys should have a horse next to them. Every dude has their shirt selfie. Women don't fall for it. Women like horses.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hey, dude.
That's a good ending. Women like horses.
This is good.
That might come off a little different than I meant it, but okay.
Where should people go if they want to get in touch with you?
Just TaiLopez.com. If you're interested in my private client, I got a link there. If you want to see my next mastermind or my mansion party, I got it there. Or Instagram's good. Just DM Tai Lopez. Yeah.
Cool. Guys, go check it out. Make sure you catch the next one. We'll catch you then.
And by the way, you know what I'll do? DM me the word Ryan sent me, just the phrase Ryan sent me, and I'll send you some like a link to some new stuff I haven't released, like my new recommended books and stuff, my updated list. So yeah, just DM me Ryan Pineda, and I'll have me or my assistant or AI send you a link that other people don't have access to.
There we go. Go DM them, guys.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.
Peace.